actually totally out on this one.
I am tired of this place. I hope people change. I need time to replace what I gave away. And my hopes, they are high. I must keep them small. Though I try to resist, I still want it all. I see swimming pools and living rooms and aeroplanes. I see a little house on the hill and children's names. I see quiet nights poured over ice and take rain. But everything is shattered rain, it's my mistake. Only fools fall for you, only fools. Only fools do what I do, only fools fall. Only fools fall for you, only fools. Only fools do what I do, only fools fall. Oh, our lives don't collide, I'm aware of this. We got differences and impulses, and your obsession with it. The little things you like stick, not like aerosol. I don't give a fuck, I'm not giving up. Yeah, I still want it all. Only fools fall for you, only fools. Only fools do what I do, only fools fall.
Hello. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Monday. Let me get this on the screen. There we go. Let's give Justin a call. Okay, oops. Got that. Where is Justin? I know he's online. I just saw him. And then, oh,
Yo,
yo.
what up?
What's good? And then we've got Andrew coming in. Andrew. We're connected. Hey, there he is. I think we're still waiting on Brian. We're a couple minutes early, so hi everybody. We are live
Sweet.
on the newly buttoned.
Partnered.
We just got the button. And if you haven't seen, I already submitted 2 emotes. Hopefully, we have them in time for Tuesday when we told everybody to hold off on hitting the big.
We should have them by then. Mine were approved very quickly.
Yeah, I figured these should go through pretty quickly too. Hey, there I am. Hi, Andrew. Ooh. Can you hear us?
Andrew?
We cannot hear you. Not even then.
Hello.
Oh, just barely.
That's room mic.
Just barely heard you.
I got a lot of processes going on.
Sure. I have no idea what that's like.
Man, that's got to be weird.
It's got, guys, you understand what it's like to try to manage a bunch of different things and expectations.
Man, dude, life comes at you fast.
Ashley's in the chat saying that she's going to be our first sub. She's 12 people too late.
Oh, snap! In your face, wife!
I found out about it because someone noticed it when I was doing the Night Attack Rewind over the weekend.
Oh, really? That the sub button popped up?
Yeah. So, I'm going to move me.
We already got our subtag too.
Oh yeah. I ended up going with Nat, N-A-T-T, just because everything else was taken.
NATT?
Yeah. Night Attack.
TT?
A-T-T-A-C-K?
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. Oh, dang it. Where is Brian?
Patron or subscribe, which is better? I can only do one. Whatever you are comfortable with.
Yeah. And
we get a slightly larger cut on Patreon, but you can't do Patreon for free like you can do with Amazon Prime if you already have Amazon Prime. So
right.
It is
and
it
also
is at your discretion.
Also, I am working on ways to bring some of the Patreon stuff to Twitch, because we can send people messages on Twitch who are subscribers. And we can also set subscriber videos, so we can still do things like early access to Spoiler in Time and After Things via Twitch VODs.
Can I just say, I wouldn't taunt somebody, by the way, who wants to be a sub or moderator on here, who maybe has connections to wires and connections and stuff.
Wait.
The wife!
Oh,
yes.
My wife. Yes.
In your face!
Oh, yeah, no.
Why do we all have dog muzzles on our faces now?
She can add that to the list of justifiable homicide grievances that I've surely given her in my.
So I gotta troll Ken's wife Saturday. She was in town, Allison, and I took her to her mom to the Magic Castle.
Mm-hmm.
But I could only stay for like an hour or so because I had another party I had to go to, and Allison is like a super, super huge boy band fan. Like flew out, went through storms and all that to go watch the New Kids and all the, like the big one of the boy band revivals and all that. So I go to the party, and one of the guests there, is a really cool guy, was with like the lead singer of 98 Degrees.
Really?
So Jeff Timmons or whatever. And so I was talking to him, whatever, and I'm like, oh, this is hilarious, because she was there at the castle with her mom, and kind of the typical having to deal with a parent kind of thing. So I'm like, hey, hope everything's cool here. Yeah, I'm over at this thing. Yeah, I'm just talking to a really interesting guy. I guess he was in some band called 98 Degrees in the 90s. Total freak out. Total freak out. It's like, I hate you. It's like, 'cause she drove all the way to go see them. And so
that's amazing.
I texted Ken. I'm like, I'm about to troll your wife in about 3 seconds. Watch our shared feed. And then.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna try and grab a real quick snack before we go live, or before we start the show.
Snack.
AKA when Brian's not here.
Yeah, I think he's watching Justified. He's finishing watching Justified. I mean, ideally, that's what he would be doing, right? Because at least that's kind of work. How you doing, Andrew? Have a good weekend?
Fantastic.
Good.
Been working away on that affiliate project thingy I told you about.
Oh yeah. Oh great. How's that coming? I keep meaning to email you about that.
No worries.
Sorry.
Oh, don't worry about it. I've been just trying to make it just like dirt dumb and automagical, so that it like just works, so it gets used kind of thing, and not just, no, if you do this and this, then it's great. So
yeah. And if you guys didn't see it, we actually played PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. Have you heard about this game, Andrew? Battlegrounds?
no.
It's basically like Battle Royale as a video game.
And
And it's not the first one. There have been other games kind of like it, but it's like 100 people get dropped onto this deserted island that's full of weapons and armor and vehicles and stuff. And as you play, there's like a play circle that like shrinks over time, so you have to be within.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. We played for like 3 or 4 hours on Sunday.
That's a great premise of, because you always look for how do you escalate stakes in storytelling or anything like that. How do you make the next round different? And the idea that you're narrowing in that area in which you're confining, which would make for a great film too. I mean, a great could be a cool premise in a film, because the landscape doesn't change, but the importance of it is something different.
Yeah. They're even marketing it as the I think the tagline for the game is "This is Battle Royale," which is pretty on the nose.
All right, I'll see how long before the Battle Royale rights holders.
Hey, Brian.
How
How you doing?
were you talking about Battlegrounds?
That PUBG? Yeah.
Yeah,
Did you have fun?
I did.
It was pretty,
I felt
it was pretty tense, but
well. I felt bad because everyone had different objectives because like I couldn't stop thinking about people watching us, which switched off the switched on the be entertaining and switched off the actually do effective things to try to win module, which only after a couple hours did it occur to me like, oh, we're not all on the same page with that. And so
I think there was definitely like a middle point where I was like, oh, I don't know how much more of this I can go for, but I think we ended up pulling through it. pretty well.
yes. But it's a very, very fun game, and I definitely want to play again, maybe with a strategy where we're all on the same page or whatever.
Right, Morty.
This one, from my vantage point, the camera looks askew, but I don't know if like I'm leaning weird or whatever. Welcome to camera time.
All right, let's click this button over here.
Oh dear. How do
Oh
I?
dear, oh dear, oh dear.
Yeah, there were some sick jumps.
There were some sick jumps.
The buggy is good for the sick jumps. The motorcycle really isn't.
Oh no, because you die instantly.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I don't have a hard out today, so we can go as long as we need.
Oh, hey, I forwarded over an email to you with some dates for a Las Vegas adventure. Can you take a peek at those dates? And it was one of those like, that's when their event is, and I automatically was like, yes, of course we'll do that. But then now we're at the point where it's like, okay, if you're for reals, I need to know. I was like, I gotta talk to Justin.
Looks good to me.
I know. Oh, I do see it right here. A little bit of J.J. Abrams leaping in. Is it just a dirty lens?
Flare?
Yeah, it is. What's going on? Ah, there you go. Man, well done. Well done. You identified you solved the puzzle. We set this game up for you. Yay! Great. Well, then I will
Oh Jesus! Wow, that's oh my God! You're way more J.J. Abrams than Brian, Andrew. This is a crazy turn.
It's a thing we did on set. We totally didn't have a plug-in that we did it in post intentionally, which would make me a liar for saying that. But maybe the guy who made the plugin and did that told some guy sitting here about that.
No.
Totally did it in camera, all of that. So, sorry.
Wait, I missed the story. Is
So
the story that?
remember we had all the lens flares.
Yeah,
going,
sure,
right?
sure.
And Abrams, who we all love, love the JJ.
Yeah,
JJ is a
absolutely.
wonderful narrative storyteller, whatever. JJ's like, yeah, we did all that, we did all that in camera with flashlights on the set and all that. And it's kind of always like, yeah, it's all right, it's what we shot. They had a plug-in. I mean, they had like a total. They made it done a couple of months, but it was
interesting.
Yeah, and it was like, oh, sorry, just what we're doing. It's like,
Spilling the tea right now. You know? Just letting all those dirty Hollywood secrets out.
Those
God.
dirty, filthy.
Dirty Hollywood
let me tell you
secrets.
who's gay. Harvey Firestein.
Man, can you remember back when that was like interesting talk? That's so weird how quickly all of America seems to have lost its appetite for keeping track of who did and didn't like boy parts. It's so weird.
Oh, speak for yourself, Brian.
Yeah, I think it was like Zachary Quinto was the line in which there was like, oh yeah, he's a gay. He's gay. He's the gay killer on Heroes, and he's a gay guy, and nobody really cares. And now he's
Right.
Spock, but he's not gay Spock, and he can still kiss Uhura, and it's fine.
See, I thought it was Neil Patrick Harris that just broke the game for everyone. It's just like, well, fuck it. Yeah, all right, at this point.
Yeah, I guess, but he was somebody that everybody knew. It was still a thing that he was gay. Like when he was on like Harold and Kumar,
Yeah.
and it was like, and then it's like,
Playing-
oh look,
playing-
it's funny because he's gay, but he loves women.
no,
He's
no.
talking about
That was all before it came out because when the story like the non-story of him saying like, yeah, I'm gay, whatever, like that was a couple years after Harold and Kumar.
I thought that was part of the fun, part of the joke of the Harold and Kumar.
No. It was just like all of the Harold and Kumar thing just set him up as this premium alpha male, perfect badass in all things. Because his brand was pretty out. He was only known as the guy who once played Doogie Howser. And
that was it.
right, and so and it was a joke kind of at his expense when the cop says, "Nah, MPH would never do that." Like acting as though Neil Patrick Harris was somebody to be worshipped as a star or whatever. Like that was the joke, and then the payoff was, "Hey, screw you! I'm Neil Patrick Harris. I'm the best at everything." And then a couple years after that was when when essentially he played that character full time on How I Met Your Mother was when that happened.
Yeah, hold on, I'm sorry. I'm Googling Neil Patrick Harris's gang.
wait, is he what?
I just saw
Gay?
the lead guy on The Big Bang Theory is gay. He just got married.
Jim Parsons.
Jim
Yeah.
Parsons.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah.
I don't follow The Big Bang Theory.
They're everywhere, Bryce. You got to watch out. You got to be careful. They're everywhere.
Sometimes they're where you least expect it.
Yeah, I went to this bar just to hang out because we've been hanging with a bunch of dudes, and you will
Just
never
bros being
believe what
bros.
happened next. That's Justin and I have our favorite Onion editorial of all time.
What a travesty of free speech!
How much did the one you read was edited?
Wait, what?
Oh, was it?
I'm sorry.
I think-
I
was
don't know
the
what you
The
guys are talking
headline
about.
was the line, right?
Oh, wait. Oh, okay.
Justin wrote an Onion article?
No, maybe secret.
Oh.
As far as you know.
Sure,
It
sure.
was the Onion article that made me fall in love with the Onion brand. That has endured to this day. But the headline was, why do these F-A-double-G words keep sucking my C?
Yeah. Oh, that's right. And he
and-
goes on in detail to express his very specific confusion.
It was but now it's, why do all these homosexuals keep...
Yeah.
Oh,
it's
they've
not
changed
the
it?
original one was.
Oh, that's amazing.
From 05. Wow.
It's hilarious.
But it is like, yeah, he's like super homophobic, but he just keeps describing these like graphic,
Very specific
gay
instances.
They did keep some of these F words in here.
Which, listen, different times, different sensibilities. That would not have flown if you published it now. But I mean, come on,
It was pretty amazing.
I'm just saying, somewhere there needs to be the original copy of Song of the South. Like, it doesn't need to be the one played on Disney Channel, but somewhere it's got to exist.
I wonder if archive.org. Oh, look at this. Great minds
Yeah.
think alike. Here we go. We're checking. We're going to go back in the Wayback Machine.
Is it?
Oh, actually, I think you just closed it. If you refresh, it'll pop the thing up top.
Is it?
Yeah. there
Oh,
you go.
you know what? You're right.
Oh man, that version of it only goes back to 2015. So they had some kind of different.
Maybe they changed the slug or the URL.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then it could be the Mandela effect too. How certain are you that the F word was in the title? Not, and the weird part is, it kind of doesn't matter how certain you are because there's no correlation between certainty and
There's
accuracy.
no. I mean, because it certainly is a possibility that homosexuals was in the title,
The original title.
or was it headline? I want to say it's 50%, like maybe more than 50%. That I think that. I mean, people were really loose.
I mean,
with
unfortunately, you can't just search for the article title and hope to actually find it. Or,
that. Incognito window.
Bonnie discovers the history.
No, see, I only keep getting the homosexuals.
The Onion article.
2014.
Maybe it is. All right, no, maybe I'm just.
Yeah, it goes back to 2007. There's a link in 2007.
Yeah, you want to
Yeah.
know what? Maybe.
That's Funny or Die. You can't just change that.
Maybe that's me. Maybe I secretly.
Well, remember, like those dates and what the content attached to it are not always. I would do a search for the original title.
This is what this is. I'm keeping it off screen.
Okay.
We are.
Oh no! It was that the title I remember had the gots.
I got
It had the gots in there.
Yeah, man, it's only coming up with the same title. That's interesting.
I'll tell you what. Maybe that's me. Maybe that's me. I Mandela'd that. I Bernstein Bared it.
Yeah.
Oh wow! Look at that. 2009. Why isn't Glad attacking the Onion for throwing around the F word?
The new F word. The better F word.
And that's a different article. That's from a 2009. Let us identify the Fs and then inform them of their status. All right, I'm approaching my.
And we did it. We found the edge of our comfort zone. Good job,
I'm a
team.
little
We did
offended
it.
here, guys. This is really inappropriate.
All right, I'm ready to start the show. If you guys are.
Yep.
I got the link that you sent me yesterday, Andrew. Did you get one that I sent you?
Hey, Andrew,
Yeah.
I only read half the article that I sent you, but I had a feeling it would be kind of like your conclusion indicated. Can we possibly talk about it, and you could kind of enlighten me on what they did
You
wrong and
can.
stuff?
I read a great Feynman thing the other day where somebody is asking him about like a form of particle spin, like this particle spin, and Feynman's like, yeah, I'll put together a freshman level lecture on it and I'll explain it. A couple days later, comes back and says, I realized I can't break it down to a freshman level lecture, which means maybe I don't understand it fully well. And that was sort of like, I read this like, I kind of get part of this, but I know that it's that I wouldn't be able to. I don't feel confident enough that I understand what's going on.
I guess specifically, like it would be. I would be curious without understanding how it's supposed to work. I would be curious to know the flatly incorrect assertions of what this means that the media are making. That I can.
The best correlation I can
known.
think of was, remember when it relates to it's a tangentially related subject, was you hear like, oh, I heard they broke the speed of light.
Yeah.
Because and you're like, no, that has to do with the wave function and not the information carrying function. And no, they didn't really break this, and it's through a specific. And you're like, yeah, because it's that. That's the part where like I'm not smart enough to be able to say that I really wrap my head around it enough to be able to say I can break it down and explain it so that people would get it without it being misinterpreted.
No way. Click, pick a time and set
Windows
it for tomorrow.
See, like, well,
so what happened? That computer has a big backlog of crap to deal with.
well, this is the big the big OS update.
Got it. But yeah, so I'm way behind on all that.
Well,
Got
I'm
to make
do
a Bitcoin
Wednesday.
payment
that
to
sounds
unlock
great.
it. Is that what you're saying?
I would not be surprised if that was what Microsoft's end goal would be on this one. Okay, well then, Wednesday in the afternoon.
So there was when I took pseudoscience and the paranormal, physics 341, one of the strange esoteric arguments, kind of like there's ontological and teleological arguments for and against the existence of God. One of the weird faster than light things is, okay, what if you shuffled a deck of cards on Earth and took it 100,000 light years in the other direction? And then, what are the odds at that moment that you'll pick up the top card and it'll be the ace of spades? The odds are 1 in 52, right? But then, let's say you're about to conduct the experiment, and on the other side of the galaxy, a janitor is sweeping up the place where everything was and finds underneath the desk an old card, and he lifts it up and turns it over, and it's the ace of spades. In that moment, faster than light, the odds have changed from 1 in 52 to 0.
I do not like.
I know.
Yeah, that's the danger of a lot of stuff. Like, I requoted one of your favorite Michael Crichton quotes about how, when you read a section that's your area of expertise and you're like, man, they got this wrong. And that's
what was it? The Von, oh shoot, what's that guy's name?
Murray Gell-Mann.
Yeah, the Murray Gell-Mann effect, he called it. Yeah.
And it's because it's that we don't want to say I don't know. And I go to a lot of events too where, like, I hang out with scientists who are very good in one area, and I realize how much of a blind spot they even have to related sciences and stuff too, which and that's the thing that drives me crazy. Like, there are certain people I'm like, oh, this cool documentary's gonna be cool. Like, oh, that's one of their talking heads. That's one of their talking heads. They know less than we do about this topic, so I'm not gonna watch this.
Amazing. Well, I'm ready whenever you guys are. How are we feeling?
All right, let me pull up my topic list here.
Justin, you seem to get ducked under Andrew just then.
Goose. Check. 1, 2, 3, 3, 4, 5.
Okay.
Iceman.
Like the
yeah, that leaves Maverick.
Justin, you listen to that new jam, the new Cogswell joint?
Oh God, he's the genius, man.
This one, like,
sorry,
I was just gonna say, this one more than most sounds like we were all actively collaborating to make a song.
Oh, dude, yeah. That's another one where I barely remember what we were doing.
You and me, I am so glad that we both have that disease, because otherwise I'd be convinced.
Early onset dementia. Yes, I'm so glad that we share.
Here, I'm gonna tweet out that this is happening.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess I could do that too. I'm gonna wait for your tweet so I'll know where to tweet, because I don't know where we are anymore.
We're on twitch.tv/Night Attack. Man, I had that thing happen again, where I find out a musician is in town the day after their show, performing here in Austin, and that's always a bummer.
Wait, you found out who was doing what?
A musician that I liked was performing in Austin, and I found out the night after that their performance.
Dude, I am irrationally excited about Auntie Donna in Austin. That's going to be amazing.
Also, by the way, how about those dem boys hitting the front page of Reddit for their AMA?
Oh, did they? Oh, dude,
yeah.
Reddit's been in love with that. Like it's been a meme, like sameties.exe and all that stuff. Like haven't you done well? Like they've done right by the.
They done well, indeed?
Haven't they done right by the white male atheist demographic of the internets?
No, amazing for them. Like I was like, I went to their AMA and I was like, oh, let me see what's going on there. I'll retweet it because I love the Auntie Donna boys and I want people to know that they're doing an AMA. And then I kept scrolling and kept scrolling and kept scrolling. It launched like 1 minute ago, and I'm like, they don't need my help. In fact, they probably forgotten I exist. So
John's like, I'm gonna go help
quietly
tweet
enjoy
this
myself.
out, do these guys a favor, and
Hey, real quick, super big thanks to Still at Work saying he just connected his Prime account. Here is some free money. Thank you, Still at Work.
Everybody, hold off. We're gonna do all this.
Hold off.
Geishing on Tuesday.
Yeah, it's Geisha Tuesday.
Yeah.
No, I'm not gonna co-sign that. I barely co-signed the name that I came up with. Let's not do that quite yet. All right. Are you good, Andrew? All right, take it away in 3, 2.
Welcome to the Weird Things Podcast. I'm Andrew Main, joined by Brian Brushwood.
Hello, Governor. I was just chimneying your sweep up and saw all the soot's gone. I'll disappear into some smoke and do my podcast now. Hi, guys.
Can I tell you, I saw Dick Van Dyke like in person like a couple months ago, and he looked amazing.
Really?
Yeah, he was spry.
How old is Dick?
He's up there, but he just looked great. Looked just, that's what. And that other voice you hear, by the way, is Justin Robert Young.
Because you got to figure that guy's got some miles on him. God bless him, though. Like, that's great.
I'll tell you what, man. When I got the opportunity to meet Martin Gardner, it's amazing. He was 90 plus something, and he spoke a little bit slowly and had a little bit of a lisp that he pointed out. I didn't even notice, but he said I asked him if he would ever do anything on camera, and he's like, all right, I just don't, essentially between the lines, it's like, look at this vessel, this is ridiculous. I don't want to, no, yeah. It's but he was 100% upstairs, man.
Yeah. It's like, we just popped up on the screen. Dick Van Dyke is 91. This is a guy that has lived an incredible life, great entertainer. And I'm just looking through here of, his, this is this is a guy that just seen so much. And then I didn't get a chance to talk to him that much, but he was, talked to some friends of mine. I was just like, left high school in 1944, intending to join the United States Army Air Force for pilot training, denied enlistment several times for being underweight. He was eventually accepted for service as a radio announcer before transferring to the special services and entertaining troops. I mean, hey guys, I don't know what you did your senior year of high school, but I sure as heck didn't try to go off and fight a war in another country.
Oh my God, dude, a high school conversation for Dick Van Dyke would be like, I think that Hitler's a problem. I think he's a real issue that needs to be dealt with. Oh my God. You seen what Hitler's up to?
Well, maybe we'll find out a little bit later. But in the meantime, guys, you know what we need to do on Weird Things? We need a nice, relaxing vacation.
Oh,
let's just chill
goodness.
out, man. Normally, everything on here is just about violent animal attacks or some weird, creepy sighting that'll raise the hairs in the back of your neck.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We've been meaning to bring this up for a while, Andrew, but Justin and I were talking. It's like, we're just going to take a break from weird things. We're going to go relax on a vacation.
Yeah. I like pina coladas.
And I like getting caught in the rain. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, did you answer the same personals ad that I answered? Oh, this is going to be awkward.
We had a laugh about it because we're both two-timing whores. So I want to tell you about a beautiful, beautiful island. It's tropical. It's going to be hot and when a nice hot, wear your Speedos, not even your cargo shorts kind of way.
Oh,
nice. Relax on the beach. And you know what the best part about this island is, guys? It's magical.
Oh, I mean, there's no way that could be negative.
What kind of? Wait a minute, hold on. Brian might be doing a backflip here, but I distrust magic inherently. What are we promising here?
So when I say magical, I mean that it's what makes it special is how on Lost, John Locke could walk.
Polar bears. There's polar bears on the island, Justin.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
In the polar bears in the tropics, but
no answers, but yes, polar bears.
Yeah, so cool things could happen, you could see dead relatives and stuff. but nothing like that, guys. Nothing really weird like that. Islands are great environments for things adapting and evolving. And one of the cool things they have on this island is, do you like lemurs?
Sure, dude. They got the rings around the tails and the big eyes and the hearts filled with joy and the spirit of giving. Yes.
So imagine a place where you have these lovely, adorable lemurs, but they can fly.
Justin.
Flying lemurs.
Yeah.
That sounds adorable.
Yeah. So Bryce, I think, has some video of that. It's like a flying lemur, just a flying lemur. I want to see a flying lemur. You want to see a lemur fly?
It's got to be kind of like like a flying squirrel, right? Where they kind of glide and
Look at that. Look at the
they got
dude.
wingsuits.
the
Look at this
flashlight.
guy.
Is that
Kaluga.
where you gonna go, lemur? You gonna fly
Yeah, what you
around
do.
like a crazy lemur?
Gonna run out of tree lemur.
It's just gonna chill out while.
Now imagine the first person to see these flying lemurs.
Oh, sure. So you get to the island and you look. You're like, why did that lemur have gastric bypass surgery
Exactly.
and never
That's exactly
have
what it looks like. So,
and never get around to stitching up the extra skin?
we're not watching a lot of flying lemurs. We're watching a lot of little cross between lemurs and pancakes right now, clinging to trees.
Which is, their natural state.
Yeah, if you say so. But I assure you, I've been told that they can fly. I'm told that on this island they can fly. So let's get to some flying because I want to see some lemurs flying.
It's fine. I believe you that they fly. We'll see it fly, and it'll be delightful. So we go to the beach. The video never showed it.
God
flying.
damn it! I swear to God, I'm tired of these YouTube creators just taking shots of lemurs and lying about
This
the
is
property by which
0 out of
advertising.
0 would not watch again. Lemur does not
Thumbs
fly.
down.
Okay.
And it's funny because, I guess this video just shows, and
Classic
by the way, this was
YouTube
All right, we got-
lemur bait.
I think we might have another one here from Nat Geo.
Nat Geo. And everything they do is legitimate, guys.
Yeah, trust me.
Whatever it's gonna do.
Oh my
And
God.
In this case, it's
They're
gonna
like
climb a
hops
tree and
off the ground.
hopefully fly from one tree to another.
I mean, I don't know if he hopped
Well,
any further than he would without the skin flaps, to be honest
Yeah.
with you.
But he can
There's
get
a
up
shot
there
on the
to
back
the
of it.
to
It's
the
really
top
jerky right
and
now
then
because
take a nice
They put
little
They put a
glide.
GoPro on this thing?
Yeah, they
What the-
did. They did. They put a little tiny camera on it.
It's amazing. Nothing's safe.
This nice gliding shot.
They'll never know my
oh,
secrets.
that's not
flying FPS
So
flying on a
literally
lemur.
flying with this tiny
That's
little
pretty great.
As far as we know, he could just be throwing the camera to his buddies in the trees, but
shot again in slow motion.
we're watching the glide path of the lemur right now as he
Like
flies
from the
through
lemur's
trees.
point of view too.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
Built
good.
the
He's
show
got
around
some
this-
distance on that.
this shot.
It's like, I didn't need your approval, Justin.
Well, I mean, gee, I was just trying to compliment you, defensive.
They're just lemurs are just like they're a little sensitive because they're kind of gliders, not flyers. So anyhow, hey, flying lemurs. I mean, that's kind of awesome.
Oh, sure, yeah.
I know. This is a great best vacation yet. High five.
One of the things that's interesting too about evolution is sometimes things adapt to fill a niche, and it's helpful for you. Like other animals, are like that's a great thing. I'm going to do that too. That's not really the way evolution works, but we'll just imagine that's the way it works. Okay, you're like, oh, you can fly. You know what? I can fly too. So this island, it doesn't just have lemurs that fly. They have a flying lizard. Flying dragon.
wait
You ever seen
a
the
minute,
dragon?
hold on.
Ever seen the little flying dragon?
That sounds right. Wait,
There we go. Watch this dude.
Whoa. Okay. This is remarkable. It looks like he grew a wingsuit. His belly expanded and became razor thin, and exploded out to the side. And dude is just floating.
Flying lizards, guys. It's a dragon. It's a dragon that flies. The snake's like, what? This is ridiculous. It's fair. So you want to go? Do you want to go there?
Yes. So much yes.
Wait
I'll
a
bring
minute,
in that.
Brian.
I'll
Hold
bring in that.
on. Pause this hype train. I'm kind of uncomfortable about how willy-nilly God's tossing around this flight thing because
Well,
there's some.
Look, in an island filled with a bunch of let's say even if they did have nefarious thoughts in mind, a bunch of flying creatures just means that we have the advantage because we specialize on ground, right? Like they're going to fly right over us. They won't know what's going on, but we'll be on the
just
ground.
saying, like maybe we'll get to fly too, and then once we fly, we're safe from everything.
You know what?
Nothing
I'll
bad
tell you
ever
what.
happens in the sky.
I'm going to bring my drone. It just got repaired.
Because your drone's never hurt anybody, Brian.
Okay, and it just got back from it's about to get back from the shop. I'll make sure to bring it, and I'll fly it around. And if they do attack, then, I'll say, go away, bad guys, drone attack. And then...
Hey, Brian, is there any damage left on the drone?
Well, from the second time, yeah. I told you what happened, right? I lost one of the propellers. It went up. I accelerated up. I didn't put the clips on the top like I was supposed to because the propellers screw on the opposite direction that they spin. So when I did a hard up, it did fine because it was spinning, everything tighter. Got up to this top, and I just let go, and it just stopped. And of the 4 propellers, one of them had that momentum, and stopping went the other way, so it screwed itself off.
I'm familiar with that problem.
And then having only 3 propellers, it hard landed and $500.
I was
later.
gonna say that like you're gonna have scars longer than your drone is.
Yes, a little bit.
So now we got an island, but we got this island. So like flying things, like lemurs get to fly. This cool little lizard dude gets to fly. I mean, guys, it's a trip. I'm booking you guys right now.
Yeah, dude. An island where
right.
things that normally don't fly but get to fly seems like a universal positive.
What's the deal breaker?
I mean, it's not like a apex level predator can fly, right? Or be made to fly on such an island to where...
You want to know what? Don't even answer. I think he's got a trustworthy face. I'm ready. Brian, we're booking our tickets. You're right. I was a little bit too judgy. We're in,
All
baby.
right, day 1. Hey, Justin, look, they've got CNN for us to turn off. This is a great island.
Oh my God! This is great. This is all my island dreams have come true. Thank God we're here.
You're going on a nature walk, and you look, and you see the flat little lemur climbing up, and he waves to you
Justin.
guys. They don't do that, so he's probably got rabies, but that's okay. He waves like, "Hey guys, check me out!" And he flies and he sails, and there's lemurs flying overhead like some sort of Disney cartoon, right?
Oh, that's wonderful.
Like the encyclopedia.
I reach up and attempt to high five the lemur as it goes past.
And he hits and he falls to the ground. And he curls up and looks up at you like, "Why did you do that to me?"
I say, "Don't worry, little guy." I scoop him up and I fling him as high as I can up into the air, assuming that he could just glide to safety.
And then you look over there and you, hey guys, check me out. Who said dragons aren't real? Where's the Khaleesi? And you look over and there's the flying dragon dude. Little guy, but his wings spread open like. It's kind of like you're like, this is great. This is great. It's like the greatest thing ever. Things are flying. You're thinking maybe we should get some wingsuits, and then you hear, "Hey guys, check me out."
Who says, Justin, that sounds, who says checks
Oh my
me
God,
out?
Brian, it's Satan himself.
I look for Satan while saying, "This is holy water, I swear. Don't make me use this."
I've been called Satan before.
Oh my God, it's Voldemort.
Yeah.
No. Maybe in one of his forms.
Brian, I swear to God, we've been hoodwinked for the last time.
Dude, it's Gary Gygax, creator of Dungeons and Dragons.
Yes. Reincarnated as a
Gary
flying
Gygax.
snake.
Oh, flying snakes are a real thing? Oh, dear God, I'm looking at video of what appears to be.
Freeze it. Stop.
This
All right, so
is
Brian,
extraordinary.
flying snakes aren't
video.
real?
What's that?
Flying snakes aren't real?
I wouldn't think that. I mean, at that point, they would be wyverns,
Thank
wouldn't
God, Brian. Thank God, Brian. You want to know what? You're right. Flying snakes aren't real. What we're seeing isn't real. It's literally just our imagination. I don't know why we're sharing a vision right now, but
all right,
I
real quick.
consider it a gift. Let's who cares? Whatever this thing is, not real.
Real quick, if you're gonna guess, if you're gonna gamble, let's say hypothetically a snake could fly, and it doesn't appear to have any wings. What do you think it does? Do you think it does that belly flattening move like the dragon does, and coast on a wide belly?
Remember, the dragon's got like these sort of like wings that fold out because of some weird adaptation that feels like almost like extra limbs.
Right. It looked like forgive me if this is inaccurate, but it appeared as though his rib cage just suddenly widened out and became fingers, and the whole
Kinda
thing.
like that.
was-
Yeah.
What do you think, Justin?
I think that it's the same thing as the lizard, like that.
You don't think it has like a magic corkscrew?
Yeah.
Like it grooves around and
Does it like
hypnotizes you?
they just invented like hoverboards and stuff?
A dead polymer says it inflates like a balloon animal, like a Macy's Day float.
And just drifts down.
Roly poly snake. Hey guys, look at me. Just
And then and if it wants to move forward, it just snake farts.
all right. You ready? Let's see the rest of this here.
Transforms it into a much flatter aerodynamic shape, similar to an airplane wing. It moves its head back and forth, which passes waves
oh my
through
God,
its body
both!
like it's swimming in air. Professor Jake Sosha carried out the study by creating a plastic copy of the
So
snake's
what it
costume.
does, it flattens and it corkscrews like the evilest boomerang in the world, and just leaps out at stuff and just glides.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, not a fan. Do not want.
No, sir, I don't like it.
I'm again it.
Look at that thing go!
I'll tell you
It's
what.
like it's slithering in air.
You know what? There's a lot of people who are against the theory of evolution on religious grounds. I'm against it on practical grounds. On this, like
Self-preservation.
I'm hereby against the evolution.
So imagine we're camping on the island. We're the first people there, these explorer tourists or whatever, and the three of us go for a walk. And we're like, is that a flying squirrel? Like, yeah, it's cool, you know? And then we're like, oh, whoa, that lizard, that's, you know, I guess that's cool. And then we go a little bit further, and I'm like, hey, Justin Bright, look, I just saw this greenish sort of thing just go from over there to over there. What was, I don't know, it's a leaf. It's a leaf. You sure? Okay. I just saw it again.
I mean, on the list of things to consider, snake would be very, very low on my list.
We'd
for
be
me to
looking
think.
on the ground, maybe on a branch. I'm like, I think there are snakes that fly through. You'd be like, no, this is not some Edgar Rice Burroughs story.
Ah,
Can
jeez.
we please send an email to Ja Rule to have him throw the next fire festival on this island?
Well, that went so well, right? What could
Well,
go
just,
wrong?
I mean, except like now it obviously has a brand for like disaster tourism. Now it'll be like, no, it'll actually happen, but it's a survival festival and Blink-182 is still playing. But now there's flying snakes.
Man, that would be
I
amazing.
just and thank you, by the way, to Daniel Cervantes, who sent this to us. Much appreciated.
Daniel's the one that helped coordinate me going out to give a speak in Kuala Lumpur, where I got to meet Marco Tempest and do stuff with him. Very good fan. Good
dude.
fan.
Good person.
Amazing. Well, I'll tell you what, you too can be thanked if you go on over to patreon.com/weirdthings and support this program right there over there on the Patreon. If you would like to kick us a couple ducats, it would be greatly, greatly appreciated. And now, being a patron is even more exciting than it ever has been, right, Bryce?
That's right. We're doing. We're going when we hit $600. We're about $109 short. We're gonna start the Journey Saga.
That's right. This is our efforts to carve out and collect the complete Journey Quest saga into its own experience.
Right. It'll be its own RSS feed that you can only get if you are a patron. So head on over to patreon.com/weirdthings if you're not already, and consider throwing us $1 an episode, even $1 a month.
It's a win-win because let's say you love Journey Quest, you get a special RSS feed of Journey Quest, and let's say you don't like Journey Quest, then you can get Journey Quest out of your weird things.
You can safely just end the episode at the end.
Yeah. So it's just can't go wrong on that. Hey, you guys are pretty busy, right? Keep active.
You mean physically active or just active, busy doing stuff?
Whatever.
Man, there's a lot I do. I do a lot.
Yeah, man. Column A, column B. Trying to keep physically and mentally fit while slashing through a busy schedule.
So let me ask you a question. Did either of you, while doing all these important things that you're doing, I don't know, figure out, how human anatomy works, do your own dissections and stuff, provide some of those detailed drawings of the human figure ever?
That sounds more like an old man Da Vinci kind of maneuver. Not us. We're busy. No. We're busy making them dollars, making them fat stacks.
Oh, but to be fair, man, that's one that's just been a stubborn little to do on the wonder list. Just waiting to be done. So I haven't gotten around to it yet, though.
Did you paint some of the greatest works of art known to man?
I mean, as far as you know, whether or not the world recognizes our talents, that's something. Did you know that nobody appreciated Van Gogh when he was alive? I figure we're in the same bucket, Ducket.
So, do you consider one of the world's greatest paintings?
No.
No. Okay.
Please go ahead. But the answer will
no. That's a funnier joke than the joke I was going to make. I just cashed out on you.
So, you ever have like an idea? You're like, man, I got to get around to doing this. It's a great idea. I just don't have the time to do it.
Never. I accomplish
everything. What's that?
I accomplish everything I ever set out to do. The moment I have
a
thought.
I designed a robot in my spare time.
Sure.
Which he did. You ever have that like this crossbow, these war machines, all this sort of imagine he had the greatest way to I love having book deadlines because I can be like, hey, listen, I got a book deadline, I can't really do that. Da Vinci, I got to build a siege machine. Oh, I have this thing called a helicopter. Oh, I've got this multi crossbow. Oh, an airplane. Oh, what's an airplane? I'd explain it to you, whatever. Oh, a tank. I'm building a tank. And and some of the stuff, these things weren't just half-ass sketches. A lot of these stuff were really detailed sort of things. One of the things that he designed was he's actually designed several, but he had a very cool idea for a musical instrument. And this was in his journals. They found some sketches of this kind of an interesting sort of device that would look kind of like a piano, but what it did is it had basically, instead of striking chords, it had a spinning wheel that would draw across the strings, which would create sounds like string instruments. Okay. And it was Da Vinci's string work.
So like bows, basically.
Yep. Somebody built this thing. Somebody actually went through, decided to build it, spent several years building it, and now we know what this thing sounds like.
Okay. So what do you think it sounds like before we hear this? Because this is an extraordinary moment. I guess it'll sound like I'd hate to reduce it to this, but when you set a Casio keyboard to stringed instrument and you play a chord and it's as if they all go. Well, I mean, like a good sample.
It's gonna sound like when you put the keyboard on bossa nova and then you can just turn it on to cat meows.
Well, I think about this is that Da Vinci was known for his art, for his writing, his anatomy, his science, his inventions. What if he just sucked at music? Think about that.
Oh,
some
no!
People who are
the first button press sounds like.
It's like Michael Jordan. What can he do? Baseball.
Yeah.
All right. It's like, what if it's one of those things where you're you get so excited to see what they're gonna do because they're the most talented person in the world, and they're like. Oh boy. All right. Nobody. It's great that you have that in your journal. Maybe keep it there. Maybe after helicopter is a reality. So it's a possibility. Because can anybody be that talented? I mean, not just to be able to do all this.
Got to have a miss in there. I mean, I'll be the first to say it. His tank looks pretty weak sauce.
You want to know what? Yeah, I'll tell you what. We're gonna take the controversial opinion. Da Vinci overrated. We'll be right back.
I like Brian's tank. His tank. I mean, I understood that they didn't actually have automobiles. Actually, he did design a car. They didn't have these things at this point in time. But I'm going to say, yeah, it does. Yes, it does look like an Ewok village. But the thing about his tank, remember that tank was designed to be attacked from any angle.
That's true. It's true.
So, but anyhow, so
This is what we're doing to him right now on this show, attacking him from every angle. Old overrated Da Vinci.
It's got to be open to the possibility. You got to know your limits. You got to know where, like, Elon Musk, we hear this like, all right, okay, the PayPal thing was cool, but really you're going to do electric cars? Like, no, people try, that's not going to work. Okay, yeah, you sold a few, but, excuses. Oh, you want to call your rockets. Rockets are hard. Okay, yeah, okay, but you want it reusable. No, dude, it's not your area.
I mean, maybe he's just good at hiding it from the wider public, though. But I'll bet you he's got some sort of, like, Babylon 5 fan fiction that he showed a friend that were like, Elon, this is terrible. Please never.
Oh, you got it. His first ever video game he made is hilarious.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you read the description
He's got
of
it
that.
like 11, though, right? Like, he made a video game at like 13, right?
Yeah. So, Da Vinci, let's be open to the possibility that maybe he was...
Maybe this sucks.
It could suck. So, just be prepared for that.
It's really weird. It does sound not at all like an actual symphony would.
No, it sounds like a chamber orchestra. It sounds very much like a string section. But it's one person.
Oh my God!
I think the style of
this one, Leo.
the style of play, because you play it like a piano, means that there's less sustain and less sort of intricacies between the different parts, right?
Yeah, you can hear like the harmonies on the left hand and so on, the longer notes.
Sounds pretty good to me, guy.
Oh my God, no, it's amazing.
This is where we shake our fists at the ghost of Da Vinci and say, "We'll send your comeuppance yet, mister."
I know, it's like
Leo.
It's like
And then
500
he just
years.
goes over the
we
ridge
still have that.
in his sketched out version of the General Lee. Like,
Like, in 500 years, he's still the person that we hold up to as kind of the gold standard for because you're kind of like a Da Vinci, like, yeah, but really you don't mean that.
How long-
It's like,
How long until somebody tries to do a takedown? Like, there was no Da Vinci. It was a brain trust of 25 of the superminds of the time. That was their nom de plume.
I'm sure somebody could make that, but it's so much documentation about that. Now, what you can do is you could break down and say that some of the things that he did, like, some of the paintings and stuff, often you work with apprentices and other people who do different portions of stuff. I think he did his stuff, but a lot of the bigger stuff, like with Michelangelo and stuff, is, somebody else might do the hands or whatever. But it was pretty well documented. Where Shakespeare... And Shakespeare was pretty well documented. We know a lot about him, but
also the moon landing was pretty well documented, and it didn't stop it's hard for me to picture people 30 years ago going to the moon, phase,
Well, but I would say what I can say the difference is I'm going to compare that to Shakespeare is that we have a smaller conduit information from which that comes from, and that's why there's a greater degree of skepticism. It's like, well, NASA said this, and do we know? We never saw Shakespeare,
right.
But Da Vinci's like, here's a photo of me. Here's my butt.
That's factually true. He did draw a picture.
He made sure his face was everywhere. And also with Shakespeare was classism. It's that very, very pervasive classism that kind of people in Europe don't kind of acknowledge that, like, well, this guy's kind of a public schools guy. Could he really have done this? So.
Yeah, get some, Europe.
Yeah, well, I'm just
props too.
Just saying. There's this that's been a thing that had to deal with. But anyhow, I'm kind of amazing. So guys, really got to get on it.
Yep. I've created the sticker machine. It plays beautiful sounds like. Yay! Yeah, I'd say anyone could do it. Anyone can do it.
Sure, yeah, no. I'll tell you what, you could actually get your own at stickersordIAF.com.
That's right. That's right.
Get your own sticker machine. The Brian Brushwood sticker machine, as invented on the Weird Things podcast.
Well, and keep in mind, it's an undocumented feature. One might say I hacked your stickers and made this machine.
Oh,
remixed.
Brian,
Everything's
you
a
did it.
remix.
I'm so pissed off. You can piss me off, too, by going to stickersordIAF.com.
So, speaking of inventions, we mentioned them earlier, and it's it's the obligatory Elon Musk portion of the show.
Oh, what's amazing? Sorry, go ahead. What's funny is I thought you were segueing into Journey Quest, but I realized that whatever Elon Musk is up to is almost equally as fantastic and unbelievable as the stuff that we're doing on Journey Quest.
Well, so he had done, but we talked about before, he unveiled his idea for the Boring Company. The idea of what he wants to do to sort of deal with urban gridlock or cars and transportation was the idea of let's build tunnels. Let's make tunneling cheaper. Let's make tunneling 10% of what it costs to build a tunnel now. Let's look into using, electrification, electric sleds and stuff to move cars through tunnels and do that. And predictably, I don't know if you know about this, but sometimes when Elon Musk gets interested in an area, there are a lot of people that come out to tell him, no, this time you're wrong. You don't understand what we're dealing with. Can
we predict the cycle of all right, Elon Musk has an idea and tweets it, right? Or is in an interview and randomly blurts, that he also is interested in this thing, right? And then there's the first wave of, oh my God, look, Elon Musk, he's at it again. He's doing a crazy thing. And then there's the wave of, actually, ... Elon Musk is wrong this time. And then there's Andrew texting me, hey, actually, they're wrong. And then there's other people saying, actually, they're wrong. And then Elon Musk actually does it. Does that accurately kind of bring us to the circle of life for Elon Musk?
Yeah, and to be fair, there are some things he says he wants to do are on much longer time frames. Falcon Heavy has taken much longer to launch, but meanwhile, they did improve the efficiency of the Falcon 9 that has a much heavier launch capability than it did before. Falcon Heavy, he said this was a more complicated rocket than he realized. Cars, these things, these slip dates move on. I don't know if you've looked at NASA's release schedule, but he's kind of ahead of them on this sort of thing. But anyhow, point is, he's like Hyperloop. It's a crazy scheme, and will we ever see one? I'm not what you would call extremely bullish on Hyperloop for a number of reasons. I think mechanically, I think it's fine, but in this country, it's just logistically so hard to. If you don't grease enough palms to get these things done, you just don't get these big projects done.
And we've talked about this.
At the bare minimum, a statewide push and most likely a federal push to just get the money to put everything together.
Well, and also I don't know that the U.S. has the appetite for the amount of eminent domain that would have to be pushed through to make it work. Unlike in the 1950s and 60s, when the Eisenhower pushed. Interstate road system was pretty dope.
Well, we've done that for a lot. There's some of the places where they're building that, the California our world's slowest bullet train and stuff.
How fast does the bullet train go?
It's not a very fast bullet train.
Up to 70 miles an hour.
It's going to be the slowest.
Nobody said the bullet was fired from a gun. This is just, we're rolling it down this hill. It got 70, 80 miles an hour.
As fast as you can throw a bullet.
Yeah. So it came out, the plan was essentially, he listed a number of things that they want to do. One is that he thinks they should make tunnel diameter smaller, make narrower tunnels. That way you're not trying to put large amounts of, throughput. If you decrease the size of a tunnel, then you can still put cars and other transportation through there. They don't need to be as big. So if you reduce the size of the tunnel, that's step one. Step two is the idea of how do you increase the drilling speed of your tunnel boring machine. And so one of the things you can do is that these things move very slow because they bore, they stop, they shore up the tunnel, they bore, they stop, they do this. He says if you can do that continuously, you can do that. Approaching it from an engineering point of view, he says I think we can increase the efficiency of these machines. And we could make these machines go faster by increasing the cooling rate, energy ratios, et cetera. He thinks these things can go faster. And it's one of these things where people go, why have we done that before? And part of it has to deal with the fact that if you're in large construction projects, you make more money the longer the project goes. that is sort of the trend, the way, because it's like rocketry, like there was no urge for ULA, Boeing, Lockheed to try to make rockets cheaper because the government was always going to pay for whatever the price was to go do it. And if you thought there was only going to be X number of launches per year, why would you reduce the cost? The same thing has to go sort of tunneling, is like, they're either going to build the tunnel or not. So why are we going to try to make this more efficient? Because there's not much of an advantage to us. Who wants to put the money in the technology, et cetera? So there's a lot of areas for improvement there. And so he's listed these things out there and seems to think that he thinks that they could reduce the cost by a considerable factor. Now, he showed that video. He showed this video of this system, and it's very, it's something some interns or whatever put together. And they show a Tesla going down a street, going over to a platform that then lowers down into the ground, and then it gets put onto this high-speed sled and driven through this tunnel system. And of course, you have people complaining like, it's only for the rich people. Or I'm like, I don't know. They want to pay for it, great. It's just that immediate people have already decided
also,
they understand.
Aren't all the cars on the road Teslas in this video?
I don't think all of them are. But part of what
I'm sure other ones can apply for permission to.
Well, no, actually, the purpose of the sled is the idea that if you don't have an electric car, if you're using a combustion engine car, it doesn't matter. You just park on that sled and it will drive you through there. If everybody was driving as Teslas, you wouldn't need the sled because you would just go into some auto mode and just speed through there. So, and in part of the video, they show, these cool looking, like just clear plastic dome multi-person vehicles, these buses or whatever, that get transported through there too using the system. And again, this is just a step one of like, hey, how could we make this thing work? Like, oh, this is one way we can make this thing work. And people are already going like, well, this is his plan. The core of the plan is, let's build tunnels cheaper and faster. Let's build tunnels cheaper and faster. That's the base idea there, to see if they can reduce that by a factor of 10, which he did that with one of the most impossible things you could do with his rockets. Let's let him try to do that with tunnels, because if he reduces it by a factor of only by half, we've got a great tunneling technology.
Tremendous gains. Yeah.
So the criticisms have come in place, and the criticisms have been, one, people like, is it only for rich people to do this? Like, I think it's for everybody, and how we get in and out of it. These are things that need to be solved, but I think we could all agree, like, wouldn't cheaper tunnels be good? Wouldn't cheaper tunnels be good? How we utilize it's next. But then the biggest arguments I've read, two papers where they criticize it, like, with the headlines like, so-and-so demolishes this Elon Musk thing, and it's from urban planners who are heavily involved in trying to figure out how we solve the transportation problems, is they point out one of the things, which is, it's just this thing, when you add more roads, when you add more capacity, you still get gridlock. Their cars meet the capacity, right? And it's sort of an observation. It's a very common thing. Like, well, here's the problem: you add more roads, you still get more cars. More people want to drive. This is an interesting fact. I don't know if you guys know this, but there's not an infinite number of people with cars on the planet.
That's I'll provisionally accept your thesis.
So what they fail to sort of account for when they say that, like, well, if you just add more tunnels, it's just going to be clogged tunnels. It's like, yes, because we add roads like 20 years to 30 years behind the growth rate at which we need them. So by the time you get those roads, we needed those 20 years ago. We need X more. And that's the problem. And also trying to build roads and add roads, as you point out, Brian, eminent domain is challenging. It is problematic. And this solution says, well, if we can build these things pretty cheaply underground, you can build one under the other one and under the other one and under the other one.
Well, and especially for, like, that does take away the number one thing that my concern about Hyperloop ever happening. If the law is written such that you could just that essentially, I guess, mineral rights is pretty well established law, but I don't know about the right to pass through underneath someone else's territory.
You'd need government approval on that one.
But like at some point, there's got to be like an international depth or something you could get to. Like,
well, I don't think it's. I mean, it's going to be
like international waters.
Yeah, like hey man, we're deep enough now that anything goes. Eat this koala. Where did it come from? You're like,
I mean, we've been dealing with this, with the issues of part of it with fracking and stuff, where the problem is that you have, actual examples of fracking contamination are like really hard to find, but you get documentaries that show like, oh, look at this natural gas coming out of my faucet. Yeah, it did that before. That's why they wanted to get natural gas there, by the way, because you got a lot of it. And you get this very big misunderstanding and stuff. But there are cases, though, where pumping water into these areas and stuff can shift, can cause earth minor tremors and stuff like that. That is real. That's earth moving can do that. That is not, a thing that's, that controversial, but a lot of the other implications for it. And so Elon Musk has made a very big point, like, hey, these things go deep enough, you won't feel them, you won't even know they're there because the earth absorbs so much of this, the energy going through there, whatever. But anyhow, point is the biggest argument I've seen against this is, people sort of taking apart the small parts, but then it comes into like the biggest thing is like well, it's not the solution we need, is we need to be moving to mass transit. We need to be moving to bicycles. We need to be moving to this thing, which is people arguing a social engineering solution is the answer versus.
Well, I mean, I think this gets to, I think, a frustrating point for me where we start to debate solutions instead of problems, right? And we debate all solutions as if they are natural competitors to other solutions, because when you think in a world where, okay, you're right, the federal government, state government, city government is probably only going to be able to back one thing. And if there was not a current world's slowest bullet train thing that had been pushed really, really hard by politicians,
most expensive per mile and the slowest per mile,
right? Like, then maybe something like Hyperloop would be something that would catch flight. So in that practical sense, I can see where, you have where you're jockeying to get blessed by this higher body. But if we're just literally talking about it on paper as to what is the most effective and what is going to be the one that will benefit us the most, I hate when we can shut down conversation because, but this is better and this is different and this is what we should be focusing on, is this other thing. That's so frustrating to me.
Yeah, man, we experienced that in our own level 5 years ago when we were going around in circles about space elevator or reusable rocket. I totally had blinders on. I was so the perfect is the enemy of the good and all that. And it turns out that I would have not had been dialed into the greatest, most interesting space travel phenomenon of my lifetime.
Well, there's part of what's a useful thing to think about as marginal utility. Is a little bit of this thing helpful or useful? The problem with the Hyperloop is you need a lot of huge infrastructure, billions of dollars of infrastructure to build this thing, get it up and running. And once we have that, it could be paradigm changing. If the minimum viable product that the Boring Company produces is a faster, cheaper way to tunnel, there's a lot of implications that we can use that already. And that's why these people who are so sort of dismissive of this, it's like, all right, you've got a guy that's worth like $16 billion right now who wants to put a bunch of money into making much more efficient tunnel machines, who has a habit, by the way, of sometimes if he can't pursue something, just opening up the technology for everybody to use. What is bad about this? But the argument I've heard is that the city planner is like, well, it's distracting from the solutions we need, which is we need to move to mass transit and stuff, which is like, I don't like mass transit. I'm going to say it, all right? I'm being controversial here. I like being able to get into my car and go wherever I want to, when I want to, and not have to wait for a schedule, wait for a time frame, and not being afraid that if I'm going to some mass transit thing at 2 a.m., I'm going to get mugged because I'm not in my personal little protective bubble, okay? I'm just going to say that. I don't like – that's my problem, mass transit. It works great in cities that are built on top of it. It's very useful, but – there's some of those cities, man, there's a certain time of night you'd rather hop into an Uber or a car than try to take, transit. And also it doesn't get you.
There's absolutely no doubt about it. And part of it's cultural. I think, I grew up in Florida where you drive everywhere. That's what you do. You drive 5 minutes to the store, you drive 50 minutes, you drive an hour, right? Like that's just what happens. And now that I'm here in the Bay Area, I take BART a fair amount, but by and large, even though I'm looking to sell my car, I'm only doing that because I have Uber, I have Lyft, and I have this gig car thing now. So I have like triple redundancy that I can get exactly where I need to get, exactly when I want to get there in the same way that I would my own car. That's the only reason why I would think about selling my own car, because I have 3 car facsimile replacements that I have at my fingertips.
Yeah.
So I think that's And that's the thing, is that there's an attitude that's like, well, it's for the greater good. We need to move. And it's like mass transit. It's like it's a fetish in some. It's useful. It's extremely useful in places that have super high density, whatever. Absolutely effective, and it's part of the solution. It's part of that, and I think that we should encourage more forms of mass transportation when we can, and making that cost lower. But also, one of the problems with mass transportation systems is they are way more expensive than we talk about. We talk about they're the things I talk about, like what you think you're paying for, what it actually costs, and you look at how that gets spread across different budgets and stuff, and what the total cost over time is. One of the things they don't really do you don't get a lot of statistics about, like, the total amount of, let's say, CO2 emissions for mass transit systems, because they try not to measure things like, if they don't have a certain number of riders on a bus, then they say that's not really an effective period in which to measure it, even though the bus is running and producing it stuff, because it works counter purpose, because they're, in their idea, well, in our optimized state, it's going to be great. It's like, well, I see a lot of buses running around empty, half empty or whatever. So now, that's my opinion.
A few people are making the point that creating long tendrils all through the Earth's crust, who knows the real effects? And Open Bayou says, if there's multiple tunnels under LA and those collapse, what does it do to the soil? Would it make earthquake-proof buildings unstable? I don't know the answer to that. And if there was some kind of expert on the tension of the Earth and how many tunnels you can dig through stuff before the above ground becomes unstable, I'm excited to read it.
We have an expert here to talk about it. He's an ancient Roman sewer construction guy.
Oh my gosh, what's his name?
Yeah, Seurus Macus. Listen, we've been making tunnels and stuff underneath for a long time. LA has got its own subway system, has had historic tons of tunnels and things like that. You shore up your tunnels, you're fine. People go, what about earthquakes? You're actually better in many cases in a tunnel than you are on a building, because tunnels are designed to already have earth collapsed over them. So it's not this, as far as the dangers or the problems from it like this, you shore them up, whatever. We've been building tunnels for a long time.
And that's a really good point, because if you're in a tunnel, you are in the most possible reinforced archway of literal bedrock above you. That's bedrock is the medium by which the vibrations of earthquakes travel, right? So you wouldn't worry about it just breaking apart above you, or at least you shouldn't.
Yeah, I mean, there are tunnel collapses, there are bridge collapses, there are building collapses. There's good construction, there's bad construction. We have an idea of when we're pretty good at knowing what you need the minimums are for that. But I mean, we are between your sewer systems and other things underneath here about that are great. People said the Boring Company's real purpose about Mars. I don't think so. I think it's a possible. I think there's a spin-off capability of being able to put a boring machine in useful for Mars. I think the Boring Company's purpose is the fact that where Elon Musk lives in Bel Air, between Bel Air and where the SpaceX and Tesla design studio is, it's a painful drive. It's a painful drive. And for him to go home every night and to spend an hour in traffic and be thinking, hey, I'm worth $15 billion and I've got to wait on the 405 an hour and a half to get home. That's what it's about.
Yeah.
So.
And taking romantic walks with Amber Heard in a hole he drilled in his parking lot. Yes. You could set up a nice little picnic in there and, some really sweet lanterns.
I had some stars imported and painted on the top of this tunnel.
Yep. So, anyhow, gentlemen, time now for Journey Quest.
Journey Quest!
Only there was a way to know what happened last time.
Oh, damn it, I closed that tab. Hold on.
Hold on.
If only there was a way to know what happened.
I got it. I'll edit it. I'll edit this. All right.
All right, we're on break. Does that mean I can go pee?
No, it's not. I got it right here.
Oh, okay.
Previously on
Johnny Quest!
Mr. Winston Churchill's about to show up, and then Lynn's going to show up a little bit later.
We can't solve every problem with killing the sovereign.
And I kill him.
The Justin and Brian in my timeline, they were part of my experiment. They were on board to go back and to try to fix history, to make things right.
So, if I recall correctly, Matthew McConaughey from in this timeline, or wherever he comes from, turned. I'm sure he's still a gifted actor, but also his genius is truly expressed in the ability to manipulate timelines and place himself to fight against what in his timeline was the greatest disaster of all of history, Boris.
Correct.
And now we found out that that there are alternate versions of us as who? Winston Churchill and
Yeah, so you're in Eagle's Nest. You're hanging out with Matthew McConaughey / Hitler. He surprised you guys with a couple of guests who showed up. Winston Churchill showed up, who actually turns out it's alternate timeline Justin.
Wait, really?
Yeah. And then Vladimir Lenin, alternate timeline Brian. But our timeline Brian had a plan. What did you do? What was that plan? What did you do?
Oh, man, that was a whole week ago. You're going to have to refresh my memory.
Let's just say that there's one less person in the room.
Oh, right. You stabbed. You took a side and killed Mussolini. No, you killed
Lenin.
Lenin. Yeah, you killed.
he killed himself.
I killed
playing
myself.
Lenin.
Yeah. No, there could
the
only be one.
alternative.
Yeah. No, that's right. That's right. So, and I'm like, I stand up with blood on my hands, and I say, not murder, suicide, different thing, victimless crime.
Still illegal.
Not a victimless crime.
It's-
You literally just murdered somebody.
I-
Again, you have one solution to everything. Murder the person in charge.
I start taking off my clothes and I start stripping fake Brian, and then I put on the Lenin stuff and I shave my facial hair appropriately.
I hope that he was skinnier than you, and now you feel bad about yourself.
All right, so what's the game plan, fellas?
So did we all know you murdered your alternate timeline guy, and we're all sort of like,
Again, suicide.
we're like, well, that's an interesting take or approach, you know.
It's called game theory. I'm too useful
Wait a
to you
minute.
now. You can't have me killed because you don't have a backup. I'm the one and only. See, whatever your plan was with that Joker, you're going to have to work it out with me now.
So you want to be Lenin?
Man,
You are voluntarily stepping into the position where
giving
you
up
are
the rest of
Vladimir
your
Lenin?
Life
makes you
in-
think.
in back home.
No, okay, first of all, look. Can I let you in? I request a sidebar with the real Justin, not this fat alcoholic faker sitting over there. The fake
By
ass.
the way, Justin and Churchill Justin are sitting on the couch, smoking cigars, drinking some scotch, just laughing it up, and they're kind of like, in a moment, Bri, whatever, just VI, Bri.
And then meanwhile, Churchill Justin just looks at Brian witheringly and says, "Those pants look a little tight."
All right, I start thinking to myself, if only there's some way that I can like sell everyone the idea of equality, but quietly keep all the power to myself. That would be really satisfying right around now.
So finally, then they're like, all right, let your friend come over here and speak.
All right, hey Justin. Number one, I strongly advise you to kill your doppelganger. It's the only way to ensure that you're still useful. Also, Justin's doppelganger. If this one ends up getting chewed up, I assume you and I can continue our friendship just fine.
We are of the same mind that either will kill the other one. We each have very, very valuable parts to play in our timelines. Though we might disagree that they have solved all of history's problems right now. I think we have, I say as Winston Churchill.
I grab the corpse of my alter ego and open and close the gaping maw.
Wait, now
and
you're
say,
showing
and
the
say,
corpse?
we agree that only you should have one of each of you.
Why are you disguised as if now you're flaunting the corpse?
Well, I'm not.
It's also one thing that you don't do after you commit suicide, which is crudely puppeteer your corpse. Like that's a thing that only murderers can do, not people who commit suicide.
All right, first of all, I don't believe that this is a real being. I think they're all replicants. But the point is, I had to wear the costume because
Jesus, Alex Jones.
I am certain that I would like to think that Alex is the middle name of the Jesus Jones from the band Jesus Alex Jones.
Stop stalling.
Yeah, look, hey, if you, whatever it is you needed Lennon to do, he can still do. Here, this guy, Lennon.
All right, Hitler McConaughey. What did you gather everybody here for before my chucklehead friend murdered somebody again?
Suicide, it's
All
a
right.
suicide.
There's a knock on the door. McConaughey. Oh, he's here. Cinnamon. I die. This is special. This is special. Hold on.
What is this, laughing? Like, why is everybody just like walking through the door?
Maybe he's called people together. Okay.
Oh my God.
That would explain why
walks-
we're all here.
Guy in a U.S. Army uniform, black guy, right? Walks in there, says hello, everybody. Nods to you, Justin. Nods to Churchill. Looks over to Brian and punches you flat in the face. Boom, floors you.
I smile with a devil-may-care grin and say, well, I guess I deserve
Boom, punches
that.
you again, Brian.
All right.
Punches you again.
And then I go into a Cool Hand Luke routine where I just keep getting up and just keep taking it in the face
No,
over and over
you're-
again.
You punches, you're knocked out. You're
Okay.
like you think you're getting up, but it's like 15 minutes later you get
I
up off the
sleep
ground.
the peaceful, guiltless sleep of a babe.
I like to imagine that Brian just does keep trying to get up to do the witty like next time you gotta
Eventually,
I'll tell you what, yours a lot strong.
Eventually, I'm just bubbling out of this mishmash of teeth.
So you're like, you get up and he's like just standing over you, and McConaughey, Hitler's laughing, and Churchill's laughing, and how does it feel to get your clock cleaned by Joe Louis / alternate future Brian? Because when you killed Brian Lennon, he went back to the future, but he went back now into Joe Louis's body to kick your ass.
I say, I try to say the words, well, all's fair in love and war,
Boom,
but
bam.
all that okay.
Yeah. So, guys, here are the rules. The way this works is if you go back in time into somebody else's body and you die, you don't die. You just go back to the future. You snap back like a rubber band. And if you got a little bit of a grudge, maybe you go back into somebody else's body.
I glance over
No, apologize,
to see
Brian.
if there's any knives nearby.
No,
My God! Wait, do you want him to come back as somebody else more powerful than Joe Louis?
I grab the knife
Oh.
and then start stabbing my throat and say, I'll see you in a bit, suckers!
Wait, you or the alternate?
No,
you?
me to me.
And then as Brian
Does it work for-
bleeds out on the floor, McConaughey's like, yeah, it only works if you use time travel like we do, not if you use the machine and you really come back in time.
With my last strength, I lift up my right hand and do that snapping, gosh darn it, since I can't breathe. I indicate the don't.
No, and then so I go grab Matthew McConaughey's time travel weed and I stick it in Brian's gaping neck wound so he sucks in some of the magical weed elixir and hopefully he comes back so I can personally kill him.
So we're in a bit of a quandary here, Brian, since you've effectively murdered yourself.
Twice, but if he came back, hopefully I come back. I mean, I assume
Because the weed, his time travel weed, is that the secret to them coming back?
Well, it's not so much the weed; it's a chemical, and it McConaughey just used as an excuse. When he's working with this chemist Dolph Lundgren, he's like, yeah, this is chemical. I call it it's a quantum XD. It's a kind of this psycho hallucinant quantum effect sort of thing. And McConaughey's like, could we smoke it? It's like, I get it's stable enough. I get so we could put it in weed. Like, yeah, we don't need. Nope. All right, we got it. I mean, like an IV drip would be. Nope. And so it turns out you don't really need to have it in there, but he's just,
Okay, can I get enough of it in Brian so he comes back while he's sucking air from his neck wounds?
No, I mean Brian's like bleeding out. He's like bleeding out, and McConaughey's like, "Listen, man, your friend's gonna die unless we
Unless
have
what?
a version that lets you travel forward in time." But I mean, not like to your back to your present, but like into the future, and then you could go take it back again. Problem is you got to kind of like, it's a random sort of time frame. Like, what's your future like right now, by the way?
It's pretty good, except there's this whole thing with Hitler where Hitler is bad. He's our Boris, basically.
Okay.
But it seems like everything's going on here. If you're just chilling out with Joe Louis, like, he was Hitler. The Hitler in our timeline was pretty particular about his company, if you catch my drift.
No, I put in some good changes and stuff and whatnot. And
hey, listen, big fan of what you're doing here. But enough of the small talk. So yeah, let's just go into this unstable future so I can grab the soon to be
your
lifeless
future's
corpse
fine
of my
because, like,
dumbass friend.
I talked to some other travelers that came from the future, like some apocalypse happened and wiped out a bunch of stuff. And
oh wait, sorry. There's also that. Sorry, we've been on this journey for a while. So yeah, there's an apocalypse, and everything's kind of broken down. In fact, it's part of the reason why we're here. We fell into the clutches of a fairly evil, militant organization.
You were kind of subtly criticizing, my regime. Got it. Interesting. Anyhow, so yeah, what you can do is if you want to take this or take your pop into a random future, you might be able to get some sort of technology or something like that can help you.
I mean, if it's that or he's gonna be dead, as much as I look at my at my Winston Churchill clone, and he's just holding up a cigar and a scotch, and it's like, and he looks at me and says, "Well, jolly old pal, you could just come and let me do half the work." And I go, ah. And then I look at Brian's corpse as he just has the glass
corpses,
eyes.
Plural corpses.
Yes.
The plural corpses of Brian, and I just meanwhile for whatever reason, despite the fact that it's out of time, like the Benny Hill girls in bikinis start surrounding my Winston Churchill clone, and I'm like, no, for my friend Brian. Let's go to the unstable future where he's probably going to die anyway.
All right. So Matthew McConaughey takes out Hitler, takes out a special little humidor, opens it up, and presents to you. Actually, it's just a vial. It's just a vial of liquid. Says, "Okay, this is it. Just take it. Oh, here's the other one. Just put this in your pocket. This is the one to bring you back here."
Oh, we can come back here.
Well, you got to leave your body here. You can't bring him with you, so you got to go bring some technology back here.
Oh, Jesus. All right. I swallow the vial.
Yeah, I mean, we would try to feed it to him, but it would just pour out through his neck hole.
I hold my throat long enough to blow out the words, "That's a good point, actually. He's got a point."
Joe Louis just punches you again. All right.
All right. I'm glug, 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 glug. I drink the vial.
All right. All of a sudden, very cold, very, very cold, very, very cold, very cold. Like your body's starting to shut down, and then everybody starts to move really, really fast around you. You watch Joe Louis punch Brian a few more times. He's on the ground, out of it.
You start hearing a Peter Glass composition in the background from like it's going to Scotsy. Yeah. Philip Glass. There you go.
Yeah. Then little Brian Eno in there too. Then all of a sudden, all white goes all white, and then you see stars, colorful stars, cosmic-y stars, kind of like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, which will be my pick this week. And then things start to fade, and you're in a living room. It's a very, very nice living room. You see windows, you see trees out beyond there. It's beautiful. It's like kind of like a big sort of like nice sprawl, sort of like, ranch home kind of sprawl, whatever like this. And there's a desk in front of you there, and you're sitting in a chair comfortably, and a voice says, and it's like there's like a hologram TV, by the way, like a hologram TV floating, they're kind of cool. And a voice says, "I've been waiting for you." And it's a very familiar voice. And you turn around, and next time on Journey Quest.
Oh, what a cliffhanger.
By the way, J.C. Calhoun points out that in my timeline that I came from, it's Peter Glass, not Philip
My
Glass.
apologies, Brian. I apologize.
I think you can probably leave off the GL.
Gentlemen, it's time for picks.
Yeah, man, dude. So you preemptively striking with the Guardians of the Galaxy. I'll back that play. It was pretty good.
Yeah, I will too. Do we want to have a little spoilery discussion about it?
Yeah, I'm down for it.
Right now or for after things?
I think we do this now.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I
Tune
oddly
out
don't
now
really-
if you don't know Guardians of the Galaxy spoilers.
Yeah, So out now. If you don't want spoilers, I don't have a ton to say about it except for the fact that I did really really like it. I think that it has a far slower pace, and I think that there are some kind of questionable plot decisions. It does not move at the same kinetic energy as the first one, but for being a movie that doesn't follow the Marvel, the very typical Marvel playbook, I thought it was emotional and resonant, and especially by the end of it, I really enjoyed it, despite the fact that it literally had like zero tie-in to anything else in the larger Marvel universe, cosmic or otherwise.
Yeah, I was a bit surprised by that. Of course, I had no evidence to back up my idea that it would be there, but outside of the fact that it just seems like by now we should be getting. Man, that guy's gonna sit up out of that chair and put on that glove at some point. It's been a decade, a literal decade of them explaining to us that a dude wants a glove and sits in a chair. Looking forward to meeting that guy. I watched it twice over this last week. Once with Penny, and then again with Josie, and they were very, very different experiences. Watching with Penny, the first time, it was very easy to get caught up in the surprise. Like, that's one thing Guardians of the Galaxy does extraordinarily well, is surprise and delight by introducing new vectors and threads and having stuff pay off. It's very, very efficient script writing. Almost nothing is wasted that doesn't get a callback later on. But watching it the second time, you notice how many of the jokes played well because they had that good surprise pop, but weren't necessarily hilarious on the face of it. For example, selling they worked pretty hard to sell the bit of the name Taserface, but my guess is there's a lot funnier names that were pitched when, before they needed to adhere to.
Taserface is a real character.
Yes, that's fine. That also.
Not that character. So, but they wanted to take a funny name, like from the original canon. Yeah.
Sure. But at any rate, some of it doesn't stand up nearly as well on the second viewing, but that was also my case with Guardians of the Galaxy 1. The first time through, both movies was just exquisite, joyful, amazing, over-the-top success. Second and third viewings on the first one, and certainly second viewing on the second one, bigger diminished returns than I would have expected, because I watched Logan twice and only loved Logan more the second time. This one I was surprised. I guess shouldn't have been surprised, but second viewing had a drop off.
I enjoyed it. It was fun. Characters are very, very likable. To your point, Brian, my issue came from some of the jokes kind of got done over and over again. Like, Taserface is funny once or twice, but then it became this, we're going to keep doing the Taserface kind of joke. You're like, okay. Baby Groot, I love Baby Groot in the trailer. And then I'm like, man, there's a lot of Baby Groot here. A lot of, sometimes a little less is more. That was the kind of thing where I'm like, kind of like the opening where we get a lot of him just to show us how adorable he is. And I'm kind of like, I'm kind of bored with him now. I'm kind of like, I mean, later on when he had more to deal with, sort of, that was a little got to me. The thing that really got to me, though, and again, I enjoy this movie thoroughly. Go see it, please go see it. It is still a really good movie. But if I'm gonna say like why I didn't go like, oh my god, it was great, was that you talk about movies, you have A plots and you have B plots. A plot's the major plot, B plot sort of the other plot, kind of part of a character arc or whatever. Peter Quill effectively does nothing for 2/3 of this movie. And it is waiting for things to be revealed to him. He's kind of a Mary Jane in this movie where it's just he's brought here and he's brought here and he's brought here. And it's not until really the last part of the movie, and I'm hesitant to use an act because it doesn't really fit into an act breakdown thing as far as on first thought. It's sort of that's a thing that kind of guy go, there's no tension. I'm just waiting for things to be revealed to him. He's not making any active decisions, and the situations they've got into felt more like kind of writerly sort of ways they're there. Whereas the first one, everybody had a clear, I got to get this, I got to get this, I need to do this and do that. And each moment they're trying to accomplish that. As Justin pointed out, there was as much sitting around in chairs as there was in Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
And that was why you talk about rewatchability, Brian. That's the thing that came down to it for me is like, do I want to watch it again? Like, well, a lot of it's just waiting for the setup at the end. I'm not watching them accomplish things in the middle. Extremely entertaining movie. The characters are fun. There's a lot of great moments, but you look at a lot of the things that some of the action sequences there were kind of like, yeah, this is a great thing, but if I took this out of there, do we get to the point that we were trying to get to before as efficiently without sort of having to resolve anything, you know? So I concur with you, Brian.
JC Calhoun here in the chat says it seemed like they were fitting the story in between songs, and the first one didn't seem like that. I think that the first one, if you want to criticize its story, maybe is a little bit overly writerly in terms of like why they need to be running from one place to another, but they are running from one place to another, right? That they're kind of constantly in flux, and they're visiting fun new worlds, and they're finding fun new people. And there's an element of that here, but it certainly is not nearly as pervasive as the first one. And like there's just a lot of everybody kind of being okay with sitting on this planet that we kind of know. And the movie sort of kind of makes a wink at like, yeah, we know that Peter's dad's going to be evil or the bad guy, because otherwise he better be, because we don't really have another bad guy in this movie.
Well, and that was one of my frustrations. Recently, I took some heat on Twitter because I said that after rewatching Guardians of the Galaxy a year and change after watching it the first time, it didn't hold up nearly as well as I thought. And part of the reason is, you spend the first two acts with the major threat to him being, Yondu wanting to collect him and grab the bounty or whatever. And then, once you see that, it turns out fine in the end, that tension really doesn't carry the next time you watch it. He seems like a much less credible villain. This time, even more so in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, partly because the marketing, the one teaser trailer is saying to Yacht, welcome to the Guardians of your family. As a result, the two biggest moments are, bad guys or gray characters, go entirely light side, or at least go from dark side to gray side, and both of those evolutions were all flatly, I don't want to say ruined, or just marketed to. It's like you had to sit through the whole movie to finally get caught up with what you could have learned while buying a 6-inch sub at Subway.
Well, and I thought that, we love Rooker, the Yondu's neat, but it was just this, part of the emotional thing is what happens to him there. But I'm like, it didn't feel earned to me. It didn't feel like I wanted, if you want to do the first 20 minutes of this movie, young Peter Quill and Yondu, and show us that, not tell us in flashbacks or like, no, you really were like my dad. You really that wasn't earned. That you counted on how likable the characters were, which made it carry through, but that wasn't earned. And I didn't feel, I'm watching, it's like, oh, okay, he's gone. All right, it's cool. So everybody's sad, so I feel bad because I liked him, but it didn't feel like it had not a lot of weight. And then when they're on the plane, Ego, I was sitting there going, so when does C-3PO stumble into the closet full of stormtroopers? I'm waiting for that moment. And literally waiting. And then like, oh, it's a cave. That's where we get that moment. But,
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I would have loved to have seen a little bit more of an excavation of Yondu making that decision with a young Peter Quill to not bring him back, right? Like that.
Although, would have. To their credit, I thought they did a great job of showing the emptiness Yondu felt after having sex with these whores, that bleep blop their brains back, and he's just, cold and alone. I thought that was a really good scene.
No, I think, and we've done a lot of criticizing in the movie. I think one of the things that it does really, really well is that I felt for everybody's kind of emotional arc. At times I felt like they were either underexplained in the case of Yondu or overexplained, as you know, like we get it with Yondu and Rocket, that we don't need to exactly have him say the words "You're exactly like me."
Right.
Yeah.
But
Gunn's a wonderful
I bought
filmmaker.
all of them, and I felt that they came to a very emotional and satisfying resolution by the end of the movie.
Gunn's a wonderful filmmaker. He's breaking the mold and doing his own thing, which I absolutely love. And that it's a testament of how great he does his characters. That even though I'm a plot guy, I'm a plotter. You know, when I write or whatever, I think that thing through, and I think that sort of thing through, and at the expense of, you know, in first drafts, often at the expense of some of the characterization, even though the motivations are there, maybe not articulating it. So I respect somebody who can sort of do kind of a, you know, have so much strong characterization there to it that it can just, you know, carry over. And like Abrams is like that with Star Trek and stuff. Like Star Trek's a fun movie. You look at analyze the plot. You're like, this just makes no sense. That was the issue with Force Awakens too. But the characters are super strong, and that's hard. And that's when we look at what's the problem going on in other cinematic film comic universes, is that they're getting applause for putting somebody in a costume on the screen, but you're enjoying it if you're bringing your collection of comics in your head to the movie. If you're not, and you're just going to see what the movie is, you're not enjoying it. Versus what, you know, James Gunn did is he took the most obscure titles you could imagine, and they have become the most beloved characters in that universe, which is wonderful.
Yeah. Well, and that's something that I had really hoped we would have encountered by now with the Disney's acquisition of Star Wars. And I understand there's only so many slots they get, but we've talked about this in some other venues where it's like I'm really ready to see some blank canvas Star Wars stories. That nothing has to be wedged into anything else, which is what we got with the first Guardians of the Galaxy. By picking this obscure corner of the Marvel universe, they could set their own tone, their own rules, and everything.
But at the same time, as soon as that big old blob started taking over that small town in Virginia, weren't you like, all right, yeah, okay, cool. So that's how they're going to get an Avengers cameo in a Guardians of the Galaxy movie.
Yeah, little surprise.
And then you're like, really? No one? Not like Ant-Man isn't going to look at CNN and go, holy crap, just see that? Like literally nothing? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
There was...
which, I mean, you know, I don't know. Maybe we'll see some Guardians of the Galaxy wink in Ragnarok. We do see briefly Jeff Goldblum in the credits of Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Yeah, I caught that. That was pretty cool.
I did love the disco.
The fact that
David Hasselhoff narrated disco track at the end.
Yeah, written by James Gunn, according to the credits on there. That was amazing.
Also, like, I don't know what the hell they're setting up with the like original Guardians of the Galaxy with Sylvester Stallone and the Miley Cyrus robot and the diamond face guy, but like, I'm into it. Not sure. Give me a movie where Sylvester Stallone is another Guardian of the Galaxy. Fine, I'm in.
I'm watching that like, man, I wanted the first act to be early Yondu in that, and young little Peter Quill kind of thing. That was kind of like maybe go like, man, there was, and I will say I thought the young Kurt Russell effect looked great.
Oh yeah, I was prepared for the icky factor of the Uncanny Valley. None of it. I thought all of it was great.
You know, they should send an interdepartmental memo about what they do for that. You know, like let's get all the Disney. I'm not gonna name what movie really bothered me, but like, you know, it's in the same umbrella. Let's just go ahead and get an email chain going so we can not embarrass everybody.
I thought it looked good on Robert Downey Jr. That's not the scene you're talking about, is it?
No. Let's say I hope that they'll do better.
All right, I'm with you.
Yeah. All right, gentlemen. It's been weird.
Cool.
Oh.
You need to go to the bathroom?
Yeah, J.C. Calhoun, I was distracted by young Kurt Russell. I mean, I think there's an element where you should be, because Kurt Russell doesn't look like that. anymore. And yet he is there on the screen. Like, I think that there is an element where you're like, oh crap, oh Jesus, that does look kind of odd. But it's brief. You know, there's only like 2 or 3 shots where it's right up in his face. And I think it made good work with it. And also in those writings, like in those scenes, like they're either all flashback scenes or some computer generated thing. There's a reason why they can like sepia tone it or make it like big flooded, like halcyon kind of like memories sort of thing. So everybody can look maybe a little shiny and Barbara Walters-y too perfect. And I think that like that helps when you're doing stuff like that, as opposed to just kind of literally putting them next to the main characters of the movie and pretending, no, that weird CGI creation's also a human. That's just an example I was coming up with off the top of my head, like not anything specific.
Yeah, I went into Guardians in a weird space because a buddy of mine, the day I went to go see it, he was mentioning he had seen it earlier and was saying on Twitter, man, half of Guardians of the Galaxy is just exposition. And so, of course, when I went to go see it, that was all I could notice was all of the very long sequences of explaining stuff.
Well, you know, it's not even necessarily exposition because like we don't really find out more about Ego. You know, it's a lot of character banter. And listen, it is a credit to that script and those performances that those scenes aren't just a anchor on the movie, because again, you one of those 2 things goes wrong and you have the Phantom Menace. If you have wooden acting or shit dialogue, like, then you just have a procedural of like, I lost my child. We need to get out of here. No, I think we should stay. Star White. You know, like the fact that we want to spend as much time with Drax and Mantis is such a fun character, and there are these you know, moments between Peter Quill and Gamora, like that. You know, some of them are better than others, but we are interested in all of them. I think those better over deliver, or else your movie's like it's not bad. It sucks. Your movie sucks if you are not having fun with those characters and they're not advancing the plot.
What did I miss? Who's not advancing the plot?
Bryce was saying that one of the criticisms was that everything was exposition, and while agreeing that it certainly is a lot of talking, it's not really exposition because they don't really find a whole lot else out about Ego or the planet or anything. It's just kind of like, except for when Ego, there is a lot
like
of
the
exposition.
whole like 5 or 10 minute scene where it's like, here is my history in clay CGI.
The porcelain, which looked weird to me.
Yeah, I don't understand why they did it like that. I mean, I guess.
Well, I think the idea was everything was supposed to look organic instead of metallic.
Plastic,
Yeah, I
like-
know, I get it. This was a weird look.
Yeah.
Did we get
It's
enough?
like, you know, something on my mom's china cabinet. You know, it's a collector's workshop or collector Hummel figures.
Okay, I don't have any after things letters for today.
Scott Johnson was very bothered by the Pac-Man moment.
Oh, really? That got a laugh out of me the first time, but the second time I was more dialed into what the audience was reacting to. And it, man, a lot of those jokes fell flat on the second viewing. And I don't know how many people in the audience were watching it for a second time and how many times just stuff wasn't landing. But that was one of those didn't land moments.
Yeah, I mean, it's...
But the Pac-Man thing is foreshadowed in earlier. Like, he flat out says, I'm going to make...
Listen to Hotline Monday. I'm on your side.
Okay.
I'm like, dude, it's a half-second joke that was set up earlier in the movie.
Yeah.
It's not like he ran around for the next 20 minutes as Pac-Man eating things.
Right.
But for whatever reason, it's one of those Scott Johnson things where he was like, he still goes off on the scene in the Avengers, or the quote in the Avengers, when Tony Stark says, "I'm bringing the party to you," and comes around the the building, and Black Widow says, "I don't see how that's a party." For whatever reason,
Why does he hate
In that
That's a
entire
great
movie, that's what he's
an
hung up on.
That's a great moment.
Amazing moment.
That's
In that movie, that's the thing. It's like it's like the critics of like Star Trek 3 or whatever. Fred is in a movie theater and like Sulu flips a guy, and somebody's like, "Oh, come on!" It's like that's the thing in the movie. That's the one thing that got to you. That like, it's like whatever.
Yeah. Movie is super fun. There are times where I think back and I kind of always think of fond like moments like Yondu and Rocket doing like the 172 jumps to get to the Ego planet and like with all their faces warping and everything.
Well, and in those classic, like when we all got Kai's power tools and it had goo and you could make eyes, it's like it looks like crappy mid-90s photoshopping.
Yeah.
Taz the Man in the chat was asking about all the cutscenes in the credits.
Million cutscenes. There was so many. It was to the point where I was like,
Can I tell you, I loved it, and I think we're only going to see all of that in the future because you know what you didn't notice is the unfathomably large number of names that were associated with it. Like and maybe we could talk about in after things the currency of credit because. Like what they're doing by doing that is causing people to sit through the credits, which I'm sure makes every single, and then you notice that a bunch of them were labeled I am Groot and then turned into people's names. Like these are thousands and thousands of people who very likely are not being paid what their time's actually worth, but they're happy because they get to work on such a massive, strange piece of art in the history of mankind. It's like this is an extraordinary type of artistic endeavor. And in many cases, people take less of fungible currencies so that they can get the ineffable currency of credit.
Or you just take whatever you're paid because it's your skill set.
Sure. Okay.
On this town, man, there are not a lot of people I meet. I'm like, I'm working on it because I want to do this. They're like, it's a job. I'm gonna go do this thing. even because like I talk to people like, oh, I work on this. I'm like, oh, it's great. They're like, yeah, it was great the first week. It's
Well, I'm not saying that they're doing it that it's fun for them. I'm saying that they're motivated. The three things that motivate. Yeah, whatever. It doesn't matter.
My whole thing about the end credit stuff was that I didn't think enough of them paid off, and it also reinforced that unlike most animated movies that end with a dance scene, this movie began and ended with a huge dance party.
Yeah,
and that was a huge bummer to me because like. That annoys me so much with animated
My
movies.
favorite is really bad movies that do that. Where they have these credits. You're super happy. You're like, man, you should be home right now.
Yeah. Go take a nap.
Basically, what I was going to say, Andrew, is just like, the things that motivate employees, surprisingly, currency, getting compensation is only the third most important thing in general. The first two, and I can't remember what the order is, but one is the feeling that what they do matters, and the other is a sense of autonomy and the ability to put, their creative endeavors into it. And so in that regard, it seems like, if having 5 little mini vignettes, whether they pay off in another movie or whatever, is a way to turn the credit scene into its own little piece of art attached to the end of it that keeps everyone engaged.
Get your friends to watch it.
Exactly. Then, I think that's in general a clever and good thing to reward the people who worked on it.
And this movie definitely takes that to the next level with the original music at the end, and like you mentioned, like attracting attention to the word specifically, let alone the 5 cutscenes. I don't know. I thought they were good. I mean, I don't know exactly how much everybody was expecting for all 5. Like some of them are just, comic jack-off teases of like, oh, Adam Warlock, and some of them are funny like gags. Like I thought the Arrow gag was really funny, and then then there's Stan Lee, and I don't know. I love the Watcher just as a concept in Marvel, so I was very happy to see. Not one but 2 scenes of the Watcher.
Well, and I wish there was something that paid off in one or the other. The second one just seemed like sad. It's just them walking away and bored of Stan Lee. And I'm like, guys, come on. Stan Lee's really old. I don't like this. Stop that,
I did just like the fact that he was talking about all of his cameos in the other movies. That he was just like, and then in one of them, I was a Federal Express driver.
Well, and the James Gunn said among those, he had him record a take where he talked about being a DJ at a stripper bar, which was interestingly that would have linked and married the MCU to the Deadpool to the Fox side of things because
That's funny.
Yeah.
So we mentioned the Ben Browder, and they called it a cameo. Is it a cameo or is it an actor taking a gig?
Is he? Is it? Is
He
it?
was one of the Ravagers, right?
one of the Sovereign.
Oh,
But he's like I don't know. Was it a cameo when Daniel Craig played a stormtrooper?
I think people know who Daniel Craig is.
Yeah.
Big. I mean, it was. I don't. I mean, again, like that was. Do you want to come do it? I don't know if it was just that Ben Browder's like, hey, you know, an audition for the
I actually
bit,
don't know
whatever,
what Ben Browder is famous for.
What's that?
Babylon 5, right?
Stargate.
Sorry.
Then he did. I think he also did. What was the other one? He was on 2 sci-fi series. So I like Ben Browder, but I was just, you know,
I think he's on
Farscape.
Arrow.
Yeah, Farscape and Stargate.
Farscape. That's it.
All right, I'm good.
Yeah, no, I think that's just James Gunn liking him and an actor taking the gig. Like I would say more of the who's the trauma guy that was in the first
Lloyd Kaufman.
Yeah,
Lloyd
like
Kaufman,
that to me is a cameo where it's just one shot of him yelling like, and he's not like an actor, but he is connected to James Gunn.
Alrighty,
I just watched Blast from the Past last night, and remember that Alicia Silverstone,
Brendan
Fraser,
Fraser.
right?
Fraser, sorry,
Yeah.
and the boyfriend role of Alicia Silverstone, her jerk boyfriend Nathan Fillion.
No kidding.
Nice.
You know, and you're like, oh wow, that's before we knew he was a guy. But you know, it's a guy. That's the thing. You're like, oh, it's Nathan Fillion. You know. All right, guys, we ready to go?
Yep.
Go.
All right, take it away, Andrew. In 3, 2.
Welcome to After Things. I'm Andrew Main, joined by Justin Robert Young,
Well, hello, friends.
Brian Brushwood.
Ahoy.
Gentlemen, so this is a show where often we get questions from people. They say, hey, I want to do this. What's your take on this? I'm thinking about doing that. Or I'm thinking about this. And one of the things I've become conscious of, I'm trying to be conscious of, is how much things change. You know, like you watch these entire sort of business models, things like that, just evolve and change over time. I've watched this, first one was as a performer watching, the evolution of live performing, how that changed from markets, etc. I've watched this in magic, like writing magic books and stuff. I've watched this in publishing and how things do. And one of the things that happens is we very much get into the mindset of like, okay, things are changed. This is what the new is. But in reality, the new is things just keep changing. And I give you a couple examples of that would be I got into ebook publishing 6 years ago, and because it was this big thriving market. And it's been a very, very wonderful experience for me. And publishers are like, oh, we're trying to adapt this. We're trying to adapt to this thing. And then part of it, they were just trying to adapt to the medium, but not so much how much things would radically change in the sense that once you had ebook publishing became easier. We went from 200,000 published books a year to 2 million or more, and I'm sure that title is even more, to millions of books a year, which changes the entire ecosystem. And this is something that's happened in music now too, and Bryce could speak to that, is that you have this platform that opens up. Now everybody can be in the platform, which is cool because now everybody can be on the platform, but now you're in this very, very noisy space, and then what works now then changes over time. When we started doing the Weird Things podcast a billion years ago, our model was maybe we were going to do, maybe we'd do some ad spots or something like that. But our profit model really was more of kind of a labor of something fun, and maybe it'd be something we'd spin into something else. Patreon came along, and Patreon became kind of a very neat space for us. And right now that's a cool thing, but also we're adapting now to Twitch and what that means, because that's a platform that's sort of designed even more for heavily user engagement. So I'm going to ask each of you, the question is going to go around, and Bryce included too, is think about the thing that you're most passionate for and what has been the biggest change you've had to adapt to and how you've tried to deal with that. And I would say, I'll start off by say, like, as a writer of ebooks and stuff, the change I've had to adapt to is, as the universe has become more noisy and trying to work on a hybrid model, is I've constantly had to adapt to how do I get the message out there? How do I get the message out there? And who do I partner with? That's been the thing too, is how do I partner? How do I partner with, if I'm going to partner with publishers or whatever, where that is going to work and whatnot. And that's made me cognizant of, like, it's not like the old school, I write a book and then I just sell it to a publisher and I forget about it. Sometimes I write a book, I sell it to a publisher. Sometimes I write a book on my own, self-publish, but then I sell some of the rights to a publisher over there. Or sometimes I just hold on to it, keep it for myself. Or sometimes I write a book I've never sold to anybody other than to option it. Or it's just a thing that exists onto itself, but it changes.
I would say for me, and you and I had very similar circumstances in that we went out into the wilds of live variety entertainment and gigged essentially the same way that vaudeville entertainers would back in the day. Vaudeville entertainers had to figure out how to adapt and change in the face of television and moving pictures and all that stuff. And in our case, you know,
but there was like a good 40, 50-year run of vaudeville, though.
Sure. Yeah. And likewise, you and I had to kind of reshape, like, what is it we're doing in our magic acts? What stories are we telling using the language of magic? How much of that can be virtualized and put into a post YouTube environment, a post a post or a constraint free broadcast economy. And I think we're still figuring it out. But one of the weird things, and I think both you and I are kind of realize, or over the years are realizing it, is that it turns out a lot of the things that we want to say with our art in the world of magic can be said without necessarily using magic. And that's been an astonishing realization to me, is because I always looked at, you see these gods of comedy, Johnny Carson and Steve Martin, and you know that they have a background from magic. And I was like, how could they ever give that up? And the answer I'm now realizing is that they found increased fidelity means to tell the same types of stories that they were doing before with magic. They have figured out a way to do that doesn't lean on magic so much.
Yeah, magic was sort of a medium, or it was an outlet for them, but what they were trying to do was bigger than what that channel was. I want to touch on something too, this, because you brought up a point. Like one of the first venues I did was cruise ships, right? And I did that a billion years ago, and I think about now that, like, when I started that, the cruise ship industry had maybe really, as being a big industry, was maybe less than 20 years old. I mean, there have been cruises forever, but the volume, when you was really the introduction, like Carnival Cruise Lines and a lot of these other ones on a much massive more scale, where you had so many more ships, and that became a much bigger venue in which performers could perform, and still to this day. And what's interesting, what's happened to cruise lines, though, is that they put a lot more entertainment on there they do now. And when it comes to entertainments and acts, like, they don't like to fly around, because a lot of these will have big production shows already, so they don't want magicians to bring in props. So most of the people who work magic acts are fly-on acts now, and that's been a big shift. There are fewer people doing illusions on cruise ships, fewer illusions, and that's one of the things that's changed a lot in the market. And I've had friends who were illusionists, and that was the thing that, as that market adapted away from that, like, well, we need to be able to fly you to this ship and to this ship, and it's costly to have your props there. So if your act can't get into carry-on with you, we can't use you. And I've seen people who just kind of, and I've been around people who, they just think the future is just a slightly different version of the past, and don't realize, no, things change a lot. And I watch people try to get back into it, but their mindset is still, one of the things that happens to famous people is they're stuck on the point at which they achieve the highest point of their fame. That's kind of how they look at the world, because that's when they had the most traction and things worked out the most for them. And that's the thing they kind of try to keep doing again and again. But,
well, part of it is also just realizing on a far smaller level for, I think, all of us, is that that's your job. Your job is to adapt. Your job is to find out where things are. Your performance is only one part of it, and that might be the most emotionally exciting part of it. It might be the most rewarding part of it. It's certainly probably going to be the part of it that you like the most. But ultimately, if you're not always looking for an audience, then it doesn't matter what kind of show you're doing. It can be every vector, whatever you value, crisp, technically proficient, artistically true. If you are not finding the audience, then what are you doing?
A thing that's made me think about this lately is there was some attention on Snap, and because they went public a couple months ago, and then they started off with like a $20 billion valuation and was highly fluctuating, and they had their first quarterly returns, which were disappointing by most standards of that. But it's too early to judge the success of the company. But Snapchat is. I have an account on there, and I go in there periodically, but it's not a medium that I particularly really like or I want to embrace myself in, because it's kind of yet another social media environment. And you ask yourself the question of like, okay, am I just being an old guy who's just sort of stubborn on that, or am I going to be missing out on something? And that's the fear of missing out. It's now, FMO is certainly a phrase that we use a lot to talk about, do you need to be doing this there? And you read, and it's interesting though, because like Justin, I can remember we started trying to cover tech journalism years ago, and one of the stories we followed was Second Life. And we were very skeptical of Second Life though, because that was, they were masters of publicity and talking about all these amazing things going on in there, and people were doing press conferences and all this sort of stuff. And we ducked into it, and it's like, there's not a lot going on there. Meanwhile, Snap has a lot going on. Snap is real. Snap's legit. And so I'm not trying to denigrate that, but you're kind of like, but you look at some of these Snap stars and some of this stuff and like, okay, are we looking at early stages of YouTube, or is this sort of the thing that it goes to? Because my thing with Snap is like, I went in and I got out, and I didn't need to spend a lot of time in there. Are those users, are they age as they get older? Do they spend more time in it? Are they spending less time? Is this going to be a medium in the future that I never got Andrew Main on Snap when it first started, because the big deal, it was at that time, it's like, it's where teens send naked selfies. And I'm like, I don't think I need an account here,
With my actual name on it, certainly.
Yeah, and then now it's like, well,
I think the biggest thing with Snap is it's a chat app with this other sideshow that you can watch stuff at while you're checking your chat app, right?
Yeah.
No matter how incomprehensible I find their original programming, or how frivolous and dumb I find, whatever Teen Vogue or Comedy Central little slideshow that they'll do to tell me the news I know anyway, if there is a certain subsection of people in my life that I will get a response from them faster if I hit them on Snapchat than if I text them, because they're in Snapchat more than they are their messages app. And that's just that. And I assume that there's an element of that's true for Instagram as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly a side to it. I think that it's there. It is how people are using it is very, very interesting. And that is the idea is people using it as a social environment. I'm curious to know, do people age out, or is it just going to continue to grow? Their growth has sort of slowed down a bit. Facebook was, the advantage of Facebook was that you could sort of see, like, because it had a desktop version and all that, it became a thing you could do at work without having to be on your phone, and I believe you need to be in a mobile first world, things need to be phone first, but not having that the second, the computer was the second screen, but now it's sort of the third screen. But if you're not there, I think that affects how people use it. So I don't know. And J.C. Calhoun point out how there was all this sort of academic talk about Second Life and all this sort of stuff, because on the surface it looked like this is the future. We dress as virtual people and we go around this virtual environment. But you're sitting in front of a keyboard. It's like dialing. Like Chris Rock is trying to dial a telephone with your toes. If I just want to talk to somebody, I just text them or just do these other things.
Yeah.
It may be a taste of what it'll be like when we have an augmented reality future and whatnot, which I do think will be huge. I do think that's going to be, how social networks and environments function there. It's going to be that's going to be, one of our next big Facebook, Google-ish sort of company. Not the next, but a big something that's going to be that scale, $400 billion, $500 billion company, which Facebook wants to be, is going to be the one that just, I think, figures out how to make those environments and that experience sort of fit together. I think so, but I don't know. But that fear, like, it's like, yeah, am I missing out by not being more active on Snapchat?
I don't know. I think that, the first time that I really started taking Snapchat seriously was when a friend of the show, Ali Spagnola, really got into it. And, I was talking to her at our show last year in San Francisco, and she was like, it's by far the most actively engaged platform for her. That she, anybody who reached out to her, she would reach out kind of instantly back. And even if it was easy to respond, it was easy for people to talk back to her. And that was just, it created for somebody like her that really wanted to go all in on creating this like mini documentary about her life every single day. There is a crowd to reward you for doing that. I have found it less reliable for what I use kind of Twitter for, which is I cannot tweet for 3 days and then tweet something and it's cool and I get a response from it. Same with Facebook, even similarly with like YouTube. But it is a platform that rewards constant interaction. And if you are not constantly interacting, then I do think that the returns are kind of diminishing.
Yeah, I think that's one of the moments that I cooled off on it was when I realized like you have to be all the way in or not at all. I mean, or there's really very little benefit to it.
Yeah,
I do think that like for you, Brian, I think it would be helpful because you have a certain kind of age demographic that you are catering to on the Modern Rogue. That if you just post like, hey, I'm doing this thing, are you interested in it? Like you would kind of get a reaction to it. But I don't know if Andrew, who doesn't necessarily immediately connect, with a certain Snapchat friendly age demographic that would be worth it.
Well,
like
it comes down to what your content is. I mean, my major product is books, and that's the thing where, I in Magic, I have a very young demo that's obvious that's part of that or whatever there, but I don't do as much Magic stuff in that area when it comes to my books and stuff. And, that's been a thing that like I've had to talk to, publishers and stuff like like, oh, you got so many followers. I'm like, well, these people follow me because of my TV show and a lot of other stuff, so it's not like they're all 750,000 book buyers, and so I get helps, but it's not in the same way in what your audience is. Whereas if I was a guy that was doing YouTube videos and making regular video content, then Snapchat, I wouldn't so much say, oh, my demographic's not there. I'd be like, well, my content doesn't fit it. What am I going to do? That's sort of my take on it. And also the way in which people you can try to promote content that's outside of the medium, but it's never going to do as well as content that exists within the medium. I can go into YouTube to talk about my books and stuff, but YouTube works best to talk about my YouTube shows or your YouTube stuff.
Yeah.
So that would be, my take on that. So, like Justin, you could do content and stuff that fits into there and does that, and it could work for there. And like Brian, you could do your snap. I don't, but I'm not saying that it's necessarily. The problem is that like right now they're that what they're making on advertising, they're getting out of experimental ad budgets from companies. They're getting experimental money, and not to say that doesn't mean it's not going to grow. Facebook was a company like I didn't invest in Facebook not because I was dismissive of Facebook's future. It was just because I wasn't very clear on what their full-on business model was, because early on, like how much were they going to go into advertising? You realize like, oh no, they're going to go even more deeper than Google went, because they're going to use all of that data they have on you to highly target it and super do that. And because it was one of the things, the realizations I had after the fact is like, the money you make per click or per impression is just consistently keeps falling. That's why these systems are designed to get you to engage so much more. So if they get you to use it 2 or 3 times more every 6 months or so, then they're going to outpace the falling rates of engagements. And if they can use that data to make even highly more targeted stuff, then there. So, you know, I guess that's the thing to say is like, does your content fit there? Is it an outlet? Does your content work in the medium? That's great. Then your medium should be there. If you're singing or you're making stuff that does exist there, it's good. But, you know, we'll see where this unfolds.
By the way, let's just let's talk about the alternate case. We've talked about best practices and how to best match what you do with the format that it's in. You can tell when somebody has an expertise, has a product, has an angle that doesn't belong on the medium that they're doing, because all they know how to do is shout about their products or whatever. You know, it's like there are magicians that you know, they're like, well, I'm on Twitter, so I guess that's to sell my new thing, and so that's all they do is shout about selling their thing, and they don't realize you're trying to harvest before you plant. You have to build up a value. Somebody has to see Brian Brushwood tweeted something and feel like the odds are better that he tried to tell a joke or tell a story or is up to some shenanigan than he's trying to sell you a tricky deck of cards or whatever.
Well, I think there is kind of a difference, though, because I would agree with you that if somebody's on Twitter, if a magician's on Twitter and all they're doing is hawking their shit, then yeah, they're never going to break out of that. But magic is weird because advertising is content on a certain level. Like finding the new thing is so valuable that just bald-faced marketing with like the trademark magic kind of like list of descriptors that is there to kind of be a puzzle of like, oh wait, but if it doesn't have that and it doesn't have that and it doesn't have that, then how is the method done? I gotta buy it. Like there is a place for that in magic more than I think in other than I was just selling a T-shirt as a comedian or something like that. But I mean,
it comes to what your relationship with your content is. If you're a musician and your chosen medium is I sell music, I release albums, then yeah, I'm waiting for you to tell me when your next album's out. Maybe I don't even really care, you know, about your vacation photos or this other stuff. I think it's variable. I think it depends upon why did people follow you? Did they follow you because of your personality, or do they follow you because they want your content and they want to know when your content comes out? You know, I try to segment my mailing list because I have some people on my mailing list that they just want to know the next thing I have, so they can just buy it. And if I was sending them stuff about like, building up this thing, which I too put a lot of value in, not always going for the ask, because I think a larger group of people don't want to feel like they're always being marketed to, but some people, that's exactly what they want. It's just, tell me where to buy it. Tell me where to buy it. Tell me where to buy it. And knowing the difference is critical. Because, you know, if you're just always trying to sell to people who don't always want to be marketed to, then they don't like it. And you lose them. But, you know, I think it's just, you know, knowing what your medium is, knowing what you're trying to do. And, you know, also it's like, you know, if I'm going to try something new and try to sell it to my audience, I got to be careful, because it's like, well, I didn't know you know, like I had to go into books, I had to do several steps to go in from, you know, hey, I do magic to now I write novels. And now that's kind of my bigger identity. But that wasn't, you know, I had to.
What it was. But I think this kind of circles us back to the initial premise, which is listen to your audience. Find out where you are connecting with the people that care the most about you. What things do you do that excite them more? You know, and part of that might mean that you're doing it on the wrong platform, or you have another opportunity to spread it to another platform because all the people that are into the thing that you're doing are also on this other thing. So, you know, it's not simple, and there's no right or wrong answer for it, but yeah, there's certainly an argument that, you know, that's your gig more so than whatever your gig is.
I'm going to address something JC asks or points says, I think Snapchat could be a place for magicians to do tricks, and there's something to do. Yes, it can. So can YouTube. But the problem is I know several magicians who are very famous on YouTube for doing magic who are trying to figure out how to pay rent. Because the problem is you can get a lot of views, but even like maintaining and trying to keep enough to make ad revenue is a hard thing to do. And that's why you watched over the last year or so, a lot of these big YouTube conglomerates where they brought in a bunch of YouTube stars have folded. They've gone out because even with stars, people were getting nice numbers of views. Trying to sell that and trying to make money from that, extremely problematic. So if you're doing it for the art and because you love to do it, 100%. But if you think that this is going to be a business case, you know, I'm not gonna name names, but there's a guy in this podcast here who does multiple YouTube shows. He's a mini TV station. You know, he's an ongoing concern where He's focusing on content, other people helping him content, other people helping produce it, helping do this, constantly trying to figure out how to do this. I don't know that, I mean, you're a hard worker, I don't know, but I don't know if you could start over right now doing the way you did it 5 years ago or 6 years ago.
No, dude, it would be very, very different. Part of it is that the very climate around Magic has transformed. That's one of my the most mind-blowing gifts that I've received over the last decade, because we are coming up on the 10-year anniversary of me pitching Scam School to Revision 3. I want to say like around this time, 10 years ago, I had the idea for it. And during that time, the only analog was the Secrets Exposed TV specials, which were universally reviled among magicians. Their legacy is slightly different now, but
Speak for yourself.
well, no, by which I mean like to me, their big crime was never the instruction part. It was always the attitude. It was just the taking a dump on magic that was so insane.
Stealing 5 things from one of my books. But,
Correct. I mean, look.
So open that wound, Brian.
Sorry. But over the last 10 years, I think you would agree that even among magicians, the concept of teaching magic in an open and public forum, I think, has fundamentally transformed as a new generation of kids who have never known, that, no, you have to have a library card to be a magician. Like, that age is gone and dead.
Yeah, it's problematic. Night Attack says selling ads yourself is where the money at. No, it's not. If you've got a big enough audience, maybe. But for the regular, I mean, again, you've got to. It
depends on how much responsibility you want to take for things, and that's the challenging stuff. There's a lot of people, including some deeply talented YouTube creators that I love following, that are just obsessed with the idea of having somebody else handle the business side of things. And I guess it's the same thing that magicians have as well.
Everybody. I want somebody else to build. I want somebody else to do the business part while I do the creative fun part.
Right.
Yeah.
As selling ads is easier when you've got a big volume of sort of thing, but to get to that point, that's the challenge. That's a challenge. And Brian did a very clever hack, as he went to a platform and sold them, put a very well put together, polished idea and presented it to them and said, okay, you invest in this, you're going to do this. But I said, yeah, I mean, like,
for the record, my original theory for doing it that way was like, I wanted the polish and the exposure that would come from being with a well-known platform. I didn't care about who owned the video. I didn't care about any of that. My end game, what I thought was my end game, was like, okay, it'll up my exposure and that will get me more shows. Turns out it never did. Never got me more shows. Maybe it got me paid a little bit more for the same gigs I was already doing, but it wasn't until 5 years in that I pivoted, saying, okay, I'm not getting more gigs. Let's think about it. Instead of asking one person for $1,000, why don't I ask 1,000 people for $1? And then thus Scam Stuff was born, and my whole life got changed around.
And let me my comment about the ads, selling ads, whatever. If you've got the golden YouTube play button, yes, that's a viable thing to do. But when you're trying to sell 10,000 views per video or to somebody, which should have value, it certainly should. And it probably can be persuasive because you're in an environment that there's so many others, and so there are different models to do it. But it's problematic. You're I would say like, and to Bryce, who's part of this conversation, is like, you're at a higher level where you're functioning, what you're operating with, that you're in the 10th, the 1% of the 1% of people who are trying to build these businesses and doing this thing here. When you're operating to that, it's
well, and that's one of the other things is realize so many of the people who are trying to get into this game are essentially trying to sell products without content. Like, all three of us, all four of us here have had a content first mentality. We'll figure out how to monetize it down the road. Whereas many people try from day one, like a successful YouTube channel is the thing that will sell my supplements.
Yeah, it's like step one. Get a successful YouTube. I mean, that's the thing.
I mean, how hard can it be? I've seen these kids. They're using webcams. I got a webcam.
Yeah.
They talk, I talk. Hey, echinacea something.
They speak English. Am I right? Me?
Who is this person selling supplement pills?
I love supplements. They're great. I love them. You will too. This is my YouTube video. Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe.
What's good, Jalopnik fan?
Hey, you'll never believe what I'll do right now. 1,000 degree knife challenge on my supplements.
Oh,
I would
vitamin
say
C. You can smell the iron coming out. Wow.
I would say that the challenge is now, one of the things is there are things like there's sort of the unspoken advantages, which many people don't realize. One of the things that comes out in Hollywood, sort of one of the unspoken advantages you don't often hear about because nobody wants to admit to it, is some of your actors eventually succeed and make it big. They actually come from wealthy families because the family was able to sustain them long enough to go out here to do auditions, to go take all the classes, to keep going and doing that. You start digging into a number of these people who, more often than not, you find out they came from, more affluent families than on average.
Man, that's a really good point. That's that runway, right? That's where, and I'll be honest, we certainly weren't wealthy. When I quit my day job, I started at, I want to say $27,000 a year. I think I quit at 31. And there was no way to keep the lights on, but Bonnie invested. She took a very risky, very long-term investment, and for 2 years she kept the lights on while we got that runway, that valuable runway. Because the first year I grossed $16,000, which of course meant we made nothing. The second year we grossed $32,000, and then that was the moment that I was just like, all right, Bonnie, quit your job. Let's do this and see where it goes. And it eventually got to the point where now she's cashing in her coupons, and she is re-entering the world of high-end art, fine art, which requires an insane runway to build a brand and to build a body of work and to do all this stuff. But luckily she invested in the right stock early on, and so when she got back to work, she was like, "Hey, I'm going back to work. It's going to be very, very expensive." And then I was like, I'm glad you let me know, and let's go, But it definitely helps to have that freedom to not be panicked about the next 20 minutes.
Were you like, man, like looking at your returns like, hey, it's $16,000. I'm in the hole. I better put a baby in her now so she won't leave me.
No, it was the reverse. It was so the reverse. We held off. Whoa, man, 4 or 5 extra years because we wanted to make sure, even after it looked like we were doing okay, we were too scared of what it meant to become a parent, And so, and we didn't know how much money it was going to be, so we waited until we were doing slightly better than okay to introduce that vector.
I would say a thing to think about in any business, any market, you have to look at what is the reality of that. And, a book that I think, again, I really recommend, and I picked this before, is 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel. And he makes a very good point about, if you want to do something for passion, that's fine. But if you're thinking you're going to build a business, you got to really look at it. And he talks about why restaurants are a horrible idea. Why a restaurant sort of the horrible, and I would say the same thing about YouTube things, because the problem is that YouTube is a thing where you're competing against an infinite number of people who will create free content. And unless you can go in there with a certain level of production level and you have the runway, as Brian talks about, your chances, and you're like, what about this person? What about this person? And that's the problem, is like, you start listing the number of people it's gone up considerably, people making really good money on YouTube, but you look at the number of people who actually do channels and stuff, and you're like, oh my God. I mean, it's like, it's infinitesimal, it's super, super, super small. And there might be other better options than just trying to do that.
And you know what? That's actually a good point. Look at the Modern Rogue. We're now a year and a half into the Modern Rogue experiment, and it is still not solvent. It's still, like, in terms of total ad revenues, in terms of all the premium stuff.
How many subscribers do you have?
300,000.
And you're getting how many viewers per episode now?
We usually get 100,000 to 150,000 in the first week for each one.
It's amazing.
And yet keep in mind, I mean,
that's also one video a week.
Sure, correct.
If this was like a Let's Play thing where there are 3 videos every day doing that amount, which many of them
do, it does alter the numbers considerably, right? But
also jumping back to YouTube as a whole, YouTube compared to, I don't know, we're looking at a lot of Twitch stuff lately, and like YouTube has always had features, like they've always touted these cool features for monetizing stuff. You've seen like Sesame Street. You can buy episodes of Sesame Street or certain TV shows, but that's only for, select partners who sell TV. There are some places where you can get a tip jar. There's supposedly they're working on paywall things, but that stuff doesn't reach down to everybody. And
certainly
YouTube
not
is treating a lot of that stuff as just like, hey, what we have is exposure and not tools for everybody.
Which by the
It's
way,
very
has value. One of the quickest ways, there's that recent oatmeal cartoon, and every independent creator has dealt with a thing where it's like, well, I can't pay you, but you'll get exposure, and everyone loves to deride that idea and say like, hey man, what I do matters. I'm valuable. You're insulting by offering me exposure. I did so much crap for exposure, and continue to do so much crap for exposure, because exposure, yes, you can't spend it directly at the shopping mall, but eventually you can exchange it for other mediums that you can. And
I don't agree with in terms of like people who like artists who like make stuff. If you are a company and you're asking someone to draw something or produce something, and they have the means to pay, they should pay.
Well, sure. I guess
like,
the thing comes down to is if there is no market for what you're doing, though, and that's the problem. There are a lot of artists out there that nobody wants what they're doing or nobody cares what they're doing. And yes, I think that if somebody can pay, but what is the price? Well, if somebody will do it for free, well, that's what the market is, and that's we can, should they or should they not? It's like, I take advantage of a lot of free stuff all the time.
Right now with the sticker stuff, I don't make a lot of money. It's a matter of just kind of getting everything up and running. I wish I could pay what some of the artists that I've worked with deserve to do 6 original illustrations. Like, I would love to. I would love to pay them their market rate. I can't. And right now, it's the fact that I'm scraping together enough to pay them something that's the difference between me just saying out in public, hey, I want art for stickers. Everybody send me art on Twitter, and I'll just run stickers because you're giving it to me for free. I could do that. I don't think I'd get the same quality of stuff, but I'd probably sell about as many stickers as I would otherwise. But I want to create something different, and I want people to have a good feeling about doing it. But like right now, that's just not a financial reality for me to do. For me to pay what I think. I mean, I feel guilty whenever I talk to anybody about what I can pay them for sticker illustrations, because I know it's shit, and they tell me that the same.
Well, but I think it's also fine to say, hi, you deserve a big slice of pie. I don't have a big pie. I have a small pie. Would you like a slice of this small pie? It is exactly this small. And then at that point, if they're like, yeah, I don't know, you make good pies. Sure. I mean, at that point, granted, some of the pie is filled in with exposure. It seems like that's an okay.
I think this is one of those things that we wind up getting into a semantic argument about, because like obviously there are gigs where you invest your time,
sure,
and you hopefully that pays off going forward, and it doesn't always have to be this carnival shell game where somebody's trying to rob you of your time or devalue you. You should, if you can and it makes sense and you can compensate artists and writers and everybody like involved, yeah. And I think ultimately if you don't and people understand that you have the ability to and you're not, then that affects your reputation. But the idea that, yeah, listen, there's a lot. I've certainly taken a lot of risks and done stuff for free. I mean, hell, that's my entire career. I mean, it's not like all these podcasts that we were doing with iTrix back in the day, and
well, even BB Live Show, man. Like you said, and we've talked about this. Like after the first time you guested, as soon as the cameras or the show was over, you said every single time you go live, if you would like me there, I will show up. And it was because you showed up every single time that when it came time, when Leo Laporte was like, hey, come up with the next version of the BB Live Show. I mean, I'd hate to sound so mercenary, but it was like, well, I know how to do a show without Brett. I know how to do a show without Owen. I don't know how to do a show without Justin. And so then it became a partnership at that point,
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a very key thing, is that there is understanding that every engagement is to some degree of exploitation, but figuring out in what way does it advantage you, or does it play out to you. And sometimes you go take a job and you work for a while because you learn skills and stuff, and they exploit you, and that's fine. It's what happens. And then you say, okay, I'll get this there. But other times you get like, yeah, they're exploiting me this, but my upside on this is going to be great. Like my comedy clubs will do like open mic nights. You don't get paid to go do those. And some people are like, I should get paid to do this. Like, well, if I haven't had a lot of time to test my material, this is invaluable. This is gold. You're going to let me get on stage untested, unproven, and go do my thing? How much do I pay you?
Well, keep in mind also, it's like, wait, you're staking your reputation as a hot place for 30 to 50 people to show up every Wednesday night, and you're willing to let me possibly ruin your reputation by being so bad. I understand you are paying me in accepting risk, and I am accepting rewards in terms of having an audience to test this stuff out on.
And I'd say, like, part of it too, like, I'm helping a friend who's trying to get an internship late in the game for the summer, and some of the internships he does are paid, and some of them aren't paid, and so, the rules as far as what kind of practical work you're supposed to do in unpaid internships, but those get broken all the time. And some places, some people will reject unpaid internships, but for a lot of companies, it's like not worth it. They really don't get. It's like somebody have to manage it. We have to do this. We've had this problem of management, all this.
It tends to attract this level of client of talent and so on.
Yeah, and it's a trade-off, but it's a system that's worked for a number of years, internships and apprenticeships, because if you're an artist, like, I agree, Bryce, that it's like, companies that should pay, but sometimes it's frustrating too, because people are like, well, we don't have that in the budget. Like, you do this in Magic all the time, like, oh, we need somebody to perform for our charity event. Like, oh, is everybody volunteer? Oh, yeah. Okay. Is the bartender volunteering? Is the restaurant volunteering? Is everybody else volunteering?
Well,
and then it's like, is the head of your company a volunteer?
A lot of where I'm coming from this is not as performance heavy as the examples that have been given in the past few minutes. Is like if someone asks you to build their website and you don't work for them, you making their website for free is not going to give you exposure.
Well, I would say that the difference is that it's not always about exposure. If I was trying to build up a resume and I wanted to say, who have I worked for? Because if I wanted to hire somebody, I'm like, well, who have you worked for? What have you done? And so, and I would say, if somebody showed me a good, like, yeah, I built this system here and I really did that, whatever, then that's a real world thing. And I would sometimes get things from people who are kind of going to adult ed who would offer to do like Photoshops and stuff for me. And it's been websites, and it's been the worst stuff in the world. It's been like the garbage. It's garbage. It's like they took a 3-month class, and it's like, but, and yes, I agree that it's that it's a very, if there is a market for what you're trying to do and you don't need to say, I did this, if you can do your own and do your stuff, that's great. But there is a value in saying, hey, and yeah, you're being taken advantage of, but as the long-term benefit, it's on my resume. Go look here. I did this.
Sure. Though I also think maybe y'all are coming from more of a very beginner position. I've seen a lot of people who have spent years, honing their crafts and continue to get, I'll pay you in exposure from.
Dude,
it's
absolutely frustrating. And there was a moment when I was still in college, but I was coming to the end of it, and I got an internship at the Sun Sentinel, and they were like, which is the paper in South Florida, in Fort Lauderdale and Broward County. And they initially were like, hey, we love you. Everything's going to be great. We're going to put you in the web division, which I was really excited about. But can we do it for credit? So just have a teacher sign off on it. And I initially was like, yeah, okay, cool, whatever. Like, last time I did one, I got paid. This one, I'm not. And I luckily had a professor that kind of knew the lay of the land and said, no, they're a Tribune paper. They can pay their interns. Tell them that you want to get paid. And I told them that. And then they were like, oh, okay. And it was a matter of them just filling out another form or going to somebody else and saying, hey, we need another intern salary or something like that. So, like, there is a line there. And from the artist perspective, you should always be cognizant of when you should get paid and experience, hopefully, informs you, and a strong support support group of people who understand the lay of the land beyond where you do is invaluable. And that's the thing, is like as much as what we were saying earlier, that you shouldn't deride exposure, the oatmeal saying, hey, look, your work deserves money, that's something that you should have in your head and you should be thinking about, and it should be exceptions that you can see to the end of and understand how this does better you if you were going to do it for cheap or free before you sign on. 100%.
Yeah, I'm Bryce. I still get approached to do free stuff. Brian still gets approached to do free stuff, and the promise is exposure. And the difference is that now we're in a position to say no because I have this other thing I can do instead. But when I didn't have that when I was trying to do stage shows and I wanted to work cruise ships, stage shows were big, expensive things for me to put on. I got offers to go do charity events when I was a teenager. I did them because I had video of me up on stage doing, big illusions and stuff, that 4 years later I wouldn't have taken those gigs because it was just, the upside wasn't there. But yeah, I think you're going to get that all your life. Can you do this no matter what level you're at? Can you do this for free by people who are trying to exploit you, who are getting paid, who have some sort of advantage on that? And you have to weigh it. I have, I've been contributing some stuff to, like, I'm going to be in this fall, there's a Predator anthology of short stories. Okay. So I'm going to be one of the writers contributing to there. And I didn't do that for the money. I did that because the guy putting together, Brian, who we've actually had on After Things, I like him. He's a cool guy. He said, can you do this for me? I said, yeah. And I'm getting paid. I get paid a little bit, but it's not about the money. But I liked him. I'm benefiting, a publishing company and a big, huge, movie franchise by just, throwing my name in or whatever that's worth, and giving them a lot of labor that I'm not charging them for. But for me, it came down to, I like it. I like the franchise. I'll do it for that. And so, but a lot of times I'm like, no, it's not worth the time. I don't want to do it. But you're always going to be asked to do that. And you always have to do that calculus. So Bryce, I got a thing I want to know if you could, do for me. So.
Yeah, I was thinking also too, if you could just.
Well, give you an example. I've been big into coding. I had a friend call me up and say, hey, so-and-so, they've got a great idea for a project. Want to know if you wanted to do it. I'm like, what could you tell me? Like, well, you'd have to call them and talk to them about it. I'm like, all right, let me get this straight. You're trying to pitch me to work for free on somebody's idea, and they're like, well, it's great. It's absolutely great. But do you have time to do it? No, you don't have time to do it. But my time apparently is fine, whatever. Okay. But I have things that I do that I think are really awesome that I'm trying to work towards. But I'm like, yeah, have them call me up and I can talk about it with them because maybe, whatever. Like, well, you should call them. I'm like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? I need to go solicit them to go work on their thing that I'm sure is probably not the great idea they think it is.
Yeah.
So, but I digress.
People,
so, anyhow,
am I right?
People. So there you go. Any picks?
Yeah, man. Playing my new favorite video game, PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. That's the name.
PUBG.
I know the name of my
PUBG.
favorite. PUBG. It's great. It's amazing, and it's a fantastic example of how less is so much more. What's the dumbest thing you could do to a video game? Make it unbelievably slow, unbelievably tedious, unbelievably forgiving. When you get hit, you don't even get to find out who killed you or from where or under what circumstances. You're just out of the game. What it ends up feeling like are 30-minute sessions of Fallout. You start off each 30-minute or so match begins with 100 people, naked and afraid, who get dropped on an island with a whole bunch of emptied houses and a bunch of loot. And over the first 5 minutes, you want to run around and collect guns and collect gear. And at some point, you start to realize that you're running out of time and that you have to get closer and closer to all the other competitors. And you just keep killing each other, battle royale style, until finally only one is left. And it's amazing because whether you kill 5 people, 1 million people, or 1 people, your glory is exactly the same. All that matters is how long did you live. You could play the entire game and kill exactly 1 person and be the #1 champion of that match, as long as it's the last person.
Not even that. Over the weekend, someone won as a pacifist killing no people.
Whoa! And dude just fell off a tree and killed himself.
He got caught outside of the force field where you take damage.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
Anyway, it offers so many opportunities to try outrageously strange and unconventional play approaches. The game's not fully released, so it's $29 for
early access, but they're saying like by the end of this year it will be out of early access.
Okay, so
it's based on like Arma and DayZ. If you've ever played any of those,
although faster, which is great.
I suppose so.
I tried playing DayZ and it was just too long. Mm-hmm. But it's great because you can die so easily and from so many shadows, and because there's other real human beings watching there, like you think twice before you like it's a real version of the argument that Justin and I had about taking bikes or getting in a car. Like every time you run across a vehicle, you're just setting up a giant loud beacon. Hey, Ravagers. Hey, Raiders. Hey, everyone in the world. Here's me, a human with a lot of goods, riding around. If you want to take pot shots at me.
Yeah.
But the good thing is, if I go fast enough, by the time you find me, I'm gone.
Yeah,
well,
also
exactly.
different to be on an island and have the challenge not be to get across the country. But
yes, okay. No, fair enough. Look, I don't mean to dredge stuff up.
No, I'll tell you what. I was watching some of the clips of you guys streaming here on the channel, and it looked awesome. It looked hilarious. Now, as you guys know, I don't play video games. I only play Hearthstone, which is why it's going to be odd that my pick is a video game. I was visited by Ashley's sister and her husband, and we were helpful enough in getting them. They came with their newborn. And I rustled up a car seat for them so they could take Uber. And as a thank you, my brother-in-law gave me his Switch. And I started playing Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild. And immediately upon playing it, I was like, oh my God, I love the way that the Switch handles. It's so easy to get immersed into it. This Zelda game is like kind of a reboot outside of the orthodoxy of kind of some of the Zelda games that either I played when I was a kid or that I've kept in touch with since I was, kind of out of the game a little bit. And I played it a little bit, and I went to sleep the first night, and I'm like, oh my God, I think I'm going to buy a Switch. This is going to be great. And I woke up the next morning, and I started playing the game again, and then it was 6 o'clock in the afternoon, and I was like, I can't buy a Switch. Like, that can't happen. Like, ruin my life. This is terrible. Like, it was so good. I loved every second of it. And I'm like, I can't. This is heroin. I should just get into heroin. Like, I'd be cooler if I was the guy who was just proudly talking about how awesome heroin is than playing Breath of the Wild. It was so fun. It's so good. If you can handle that in your life, then that's fine. But I'm going to stick to just drinking and making podcasts because I can't handle that.
What's really great about Breath of the Wild is that it has a story, but it doesn't have the structure to tell a very linear story, right? Because as soon as you start the game, you get your final objective, which is to defeat the boss. And so you have all of these vignettes of the backstory of the game that you find, as well as all the stuff that you find when you talk to people in the villages and around these towns and stuff. It's for not having a whole lot that I think there's not a lot of meat on the narrative bones there. I think it's a really awesome game with a lot of very cool
it doesn't need to have a lot of meat. I mean, who needs some crazy others? What? Ganon's there. There's a princess. You're Link. Bada bing bang boom. There we go. Now, and I think that there's a lot of great world building there that kind of gilds the lily enough that I was certainly transfixed by it. So go play it or do heroin. So both picks, heroin and Breath of the Wild.
I dated a girl who had, way back in the day, she had a PlayStation. She had Vice City on it, right? And I'd never played. She's like, I'm over there one night, and we went out to dinner and came back and started to play it. And she's like, I got to go to bed. I got work. I'm like, all right, I'll be here. I'm playing it. And then door opens up, and she's dressed for work.
Yeah.
And I realized the sun is up. I'm like, yeah. She looks at me to look like you're still playing it. And I'm like, I'm that guy. And that was it. I dropped it. Done. That was kind of like my last. I played it when the Wii came out. I played Zelda on that, and it was fun. It was very cool. But I'm like, yep, this could be a big time sink. And after I finish this game, I'm going to want to play another game and another game and another game. And man, the best way to win is not to play.
Well,
I'm
that's
depriving myself
the thing I like
of
about
this
Hearthstone.
enjoyment, to be sure.
The thing I like about Hearthstone is that there's a steady drumbeat of stop playing in the game. Like, you play and then you suck and you lose and you think you got something going and then you can't do it and it sucks and you don't have a card that other people have. There's just a lot. I just realized, like, I just like very, very bitter beer. I just like my game to constantly be telling me that I'm not good enough and I should stop playing because it forces me to stop playing.
That's a really good way to put it, man.
The thing that I kind of fear is one of the forms that we're going to be getting, alternate reality, whatever, VR, AR, whatever you want to call it, is I think I'm a big believer. I'm betting big on projection mapping is going to be a big part of it, where you're just going to put fixtures and stuff around that are going to turn every surface into something, so that your game can always be on next to you.
Yeah.
And not having to put anything on your face or whatever. Eventually we'll get to neural-lace all that, but I think that's going to be an interesting intermediary step, is the idea that, in interior house, projection mapping for everything can become a screen, and because then you can stand and your whole wall can become the game and you can play it and you can go through it and do that. And I think that's going to be highly addictive, because you can have your whole world, your house becomes a GUI and becomes screens and stuff. And I've got it open over there. Oh, Justin's playing right now. Brian just hopped in there. I'm going to go play right now, so.
And Ball, I mean, I don't know. The easy thing, or I guess the typical thing, is this is the moment to be all like, yeah, people don't talk to actual each other. It's like, it doesn't. What does it matter if we talk to actual each other, as long as we have the feeling of camaraderie and a friendship that comes from.
You've seen the photo of like the people on the train in like 1930 or whatever. They all got the newspaper in front of their face.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
they're probably closer to owning slaves, assholes.
Seems like a good point to wind up on.
Yeah. I got my shoes. It's been after. It's great.
Alrighty.
What's that?
Just a note on projection matching, it would require you to have light, dark walls, and that's not true. You can use laser projection and very, very bright projection systems, and you can compensate.
Yeah. Let's take that.
Not said, I mean, it's dismissive like you, but if you're using really, really much brighter projection systems and stuff, you can compensate and you can adjust for that. Obviously, your whites and your true blacks and all that, your true point, are going to be different. But if you're using just bright enough light sources and stuff, you can do that. And you can do some really interesting things to compensate. It's like the gradient scale. Where does it go from gray to white or whatever? That's one of the things you can do in these spaces too, is you can even have that. But also what you do is in these systems is you would be building into your entire light fixtures would all be projection mapping systems. So you can make any spot dark. That's the other thing that kind of comes into it, is the idea
by deciding to project everywhere except here.
Yeah, I believe, because if you look at the curve of like how projection systems or how they're falling in price, you're going to get to a point where they're as cheap to make as, the little cheap LEDs. And so at that point, you just, you might have lamps and stuff for novelty's sake, but everything else you're going to put in there, you just put in multiple projection systems that are all synced together, meshed together. And, that's the thing. I think it's when we see it, we'll get it. We'll go, oh, I get it. If every light bulb becomes turning light bulbs into digital devices for projecting images.
Yeah.
Or the robots. The robots get us. Guys, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Awesome. My G key is broken on my laptop.
Yo, ever since I was a lowercase G, but now I'm a big G. The girls see I got the money. Dollar bills, y'all.
All right, we'll see you guys in a couple of hours for Cord Killers. Bye, everybody.